Okay. Hi, guys. What's up? Let's just leave that up there. Center that a little bit, I think. Wrong thing. Always doing the wrong thing, what can I say? There we go. We're just going to leave that text up there. So... I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? It really sucks losing all that information and data. I don't have to go back, and I'm going to redo those raids. I'm going to need some help with it. I'm going to have to re-edit all the legendary stuff. It's going to be this colossal hassle. Gosh darn it. How am I going to deal with all of this? And I was like, you know what? None of that's relevant now, because that's all stuff that's happening after we finish Pandaria's quests. So I have a little bit of time to do that. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, I mean, you're going to have to stop anyways, right? Yes, I am, absolutely. But I started thinking about it. What's easier? To just go ahead and do the lore run at the designated we're launching it time, which is today, and then pause later when I have to, or go ahead and pause everything now and do yet another release date announcement because of yet another delay later, and not only just risk losing information, but risk people not getting the message that Lorerun has been delayed and then restarted again. So, yeah. As an aside, for those of you watching this, welcome to the new channel. If you're watching this in a re-recording on YouTube, you are watching this on the second channel, the Streams Only channel. So welcome to the new channel. We will no longer be uploading any stream-related content to the old channel. We're going to be completely segregating the two. Now, I also have a little bit of a favor I need to ask basically all of you. I need 100 subscribers over on the new channel in order to be able to set it up as a channel, basically. Right now it's just like a Google Plus YouTube page. Forgive me for those of you watching this on the YouTube page. Hopefully by the time you see this live on YouTube, this will have been dealt with. But right now, I have certain settings and certain things I don't have access to. For example, the reason it says, you know, you need to type in a thing to get the link to it is because the link, and you can see it, pretty, there's this whole thing, there's this link which is basically like UCOCYPNX var, you know, just, it's all over the place, is what I'm showing. It's all over the place. And so if I want to have a channel that's something like what I'm probably going to set it up as, then I'm going to need to have those 100 subscribers. So thank you everyone for helping with that. Appreciate it. For now, I want to talk a little bit about Pandaria before we really get into it. So, obviously, a lot of people commented that Cataclysm was basically the end of World of Warcraft. That Wrath was the last good expansion, and that the game has been dying ever since. Now, as ever, grain of salt, people have quite literally been saying that WoW is dying since vanilla. In fact, to be a little bit blunt, I have heard people saying that WoW is dying since beta. I really wish I was making this up, but I'm not. I have heard people say, oh yeah, WoW's dying, and just, you know, it's going to hell. You know what? I like Stormwind's music. Let's get some Stormwind music going while I talk here. Oh, WoW is totally dying. It'll never make it anywhere, and blah, blah, blah. In the beta, people were talking about how it would never usurp EverQuest, or Ultima Online would always be better, or WoW would never be successful. I mean, who the hell wants a Warcraft MMO? Come on. And people would complain about how terrible those Frozen Throne missions are. You remember the ones for the Orc campaign in Frozen Throne where you play as Rexar? You remember that awesome, amazing part of the game? People were complaining about that in the WoW beta. Again, I'm not making this up. People were complaining about that and saying how absolutely terrible it is and how absolutely disgusting it is. And just anybody who wants that kind of a thing just needs to get out of their MMO market. It's never going to work. I find such comments to be an endless source of amusement, as you might imagine. I'm going to reformat this text. I don't like this. There we go. We'll make it much easier to see that over there. Bamf. Seriously! God, who would ever want that samurai? But a lot of people think, and there is some validity to this, and that's why I want to discuss this in an open thing. I don't want to just... I fight so hard. I do this in my everyday life, too. Sometimes a friend of mine will make a generalized statement. You know, this movie sucks, for example. Or, well, I'll give you a direct example. Another person said, this was a few weeks ago, new movies are not as good as old movies. They simply don't have the depth and complexity of characterization that old movies did. And while there is some validity to his statement, that statement he made was a generalization. I called him out on it. I'm like, no, that is generalizing. That is ignoring the realities of the specifics of the circumstance. There are still movies that really focus on characterization. There are stories out there in movie format that really try to push the story aspect of the movie. His point that he was trying to make was, in the older days, you didn't have much else to lean on other than character, writing, plot, etc. So a lot of movies were made with more of a focus on that because that was all they had. And that was his actual point. To say that nowadays movies aren't as good as they used to be is the kind of thing that I fight against, in my real life, like I just gave you the example of, and on my show most especially. It's one of the reasons why I'm talking for like 20 minutes before I actually start playing Pandaria. But this is all building up to something, so forgive me. So Cataclysm was the end of WoW, which is a generalization, just like the previous statement. There is a real statement under there. When Cataclysm came out and was coming out, that was pretty much the first time that the amount of new and maintained subs was overwhelmed, was no longer keeping up with the rate of lost subs. Now, I explain it that way to try and explain the point, because the overall rate of subs did go down when Cataclysm came out. But to explain what I mean by that, WoW has always been losing subs, ever since vanilla, right? It's just that the amount of new subs coming in has overwhelmed that, so the net has been going up, okay? So the only thing that actually changed in Cata was the net was now a negative rather than a positive. So it's not like just all of a sudden people were jumping ship. People had been jumping ship since vanilla. People jumped ship in BC, people jumped ship in Wrath. Sometimes people had other things to deal with. Sometimes they just got bored of the game. Sometimes they had frustration issues. Sometimes they would come back later. But people always jump ship, and I dislike that generalization, that Cataclysm, all of a sudden people just started jumping ship in WoW, when that's not actually true. Okay? Hi, everyone, by the way. I know I haven't actually said hi to everyone individually. Deutsch, Godric, who's on my screen right now, Samurai, Ezure, Leander, Catabo, who I think I'm pronouncing right, Bragwin, the amazing and the sexy, Zeiss, Schmeidolf, Renegade, who else is on right now? Wraith, Shuryu, Zed. I know I saw someone else earlier. Scythe, there you are. What's up, everyone? Marley, Domanai. What's going on, guys? All right, so. Words. So, okay, Venters, just this once. Hi, Venters. So, here, Goomba says hi. BGP, Mr. Com, what was up? So, there was definitely a decrease, like I said, a net reduction in the overall amount of subs from Cataclysm. There's a lot of reasons for that. I've actually already given you several of those reasons. Some people have real-life issues. Remember that WoW came out a little over about 12 years ago, basically. Now, I don't know if you guys understand how long... Come on, look at chat, Goomba. I don't know if you understand how long 12 years are. 12 years is a long frickin' time, right? Now, granted, Cataclysm wasn't 12 years ago, but the point is, you know, I'm sure most of you understand that when we get older, our free time tends to shrink. We usually have more responsibilities or more things to deal with, or just too many other things to do. Don't you agree? Okay. So it's logical that over time we just have less time for our hobbies. Now, this is not a complaint. What I'm about to say is not a complaint. However, I don't have time for hobbies myself right now. To give you a direct example of what I'm talking about, I have abandoned speedrunning. I don't have time for it anymore. Maybe in the future when I'm more caught up in the show I will, but right now I can't speedrun. I can't play games just for fun. I can't get into writing just for fun. I have completely abandoned doing my own music. You know, all the things that were hobbies to me, I have abandoned because I just don't have time for them. And I'm not alone in this. I'm sure a lot of you people have the exact same situation. So it is logical that a game like WoW, which is a colossal time sink, which is basically the devourer of other games for reasons that I think I've explained at this point, because there is such a length and depth and breadth to this game in terms of content, in terms of what there is to do, and in terms of how long it takes to do it all, that it is logical that over time, certain people simply would not be able to keep playing anymore. You agree? Okay. That's one of the reasons for people leaving out. Like I said, another reason is people just get bored of it. Some people do not enjoy playing Mega Man 2 anymore. I do. But I fully acknowledge that I am an exception, not a rule. Most people, the vast majority of people, when they play the same game over and over, it doesn't matter if they enjoy that game. What matters is it's the same game they're playing. I've actually used this parallel before with the whole Cadbury cream eggs thing. You may like Cadbury cream eggs, but if you keep eating it and keep eating it and keep eating it, it's going to get to the point where you're simply not going to enjoy Cadbury cream eggs anymore. You have to take a break from it. So there are some people who have been, hi Raskor, playing WoW since vanilla. They played it in BC and they played it in Wrath, and they were just kind of tired of it. I know at least one person personally who is like that myself. So that's the second group of people who are leaving. And then there's all sorts of other possible reasons. I'm not going to go over every single reason why people were leaving. But the most important reason, I've actually already talked about this. The most important reason by a wide margin why Cataclysm was the expansion where the subs started dropping is because this happens to every game ever. I mentioned earlier the difference between the positive, the amount of the influx of subs versus the loss of subs, and so in any game ever, it follows this exact same pattern. You can go this all the way back to the early '80s. What do you mean, Deutsch? I don't even understand your sentence. Although I am going to start not using Twitter as an announcement thing anymore once I get that app designed. Every game ever does this, especially in MMOs. It'll have a surge of people coming in, and then usually expansions and whatnot, or other things that increase interest cause either continuance of the surge or maintenance of the surge or a new surge. And then it'll go down. And then it'll usually level out at a point, because that ups and downs balances out. I know this is a weird parallel, but it's kind of like the death rate in certain countries. Or not the death rate. There's actually a term for that. With the death rate, when you consider the rate of death and the rate of births combined, you get the overall population growth rate, basically. It's the same general concept. After a certain point in time, it just levels out. Once things settle, when the many different variables, and when time and money and content and boredom and real life and all those other things level out, the number of people leaving and the number of people staying basically equal out, right? That's kind of where we're at now, actually, in WoW, and have been for over a year at this point. Despite the extensive complaints about warlords, the numbers don't back those up. But I don't want to get into that. Let's just say I get really defensive about warlords because I really get sick of hearing generalized complaints about warlords, like I just mentioned. I hope this gives a little bit of a better insight into why Cataclysm was the point in which WoW started descending in popularity, why their overwhelming majority of the market started becoming merely a majority of the market. By the way, WoW still has a majority of the market, just to make that point clear. So the point I am really trying to make is, if the third expansion of WoW wasn't Cataclysm, but was instead super amazing Joygasm 75, which made everyone absolutely love it, same thing would have happened. The exact same thing would have happened. There would have been an upsurge. People would have been like, wow, this is good. And then it would have been a downsurge, and then it would have leveled out a bit, and then the next is so forth and so on. This is just how this works. Wouldn't have mattered which actual specific thing it was. And some people looked at... You are right, Ventures. You are absolutely right. So Ventures brings up a point that's actually very relevant. So I'm kind of playing with my new business card. I have a new business card, guys. I'm really fond of it. Yeah, no kidding, Rasker. Good movie. There's been a trend in WoW. It's popular to bash things that are popular. It's one of the most common things you'll see people complain about is things that other people enjoy. That is just how it is and how it always has been. So WoW and Blizzard games in general tend to get bashed to high heaven because they are popular and successful, and they are big, easy, obvious targets where you can point out one thing that is wrong with them and say this is wrong, and blow that out completely out of proportion. To make my point as blunt as I can, yes, the garrisons were a mistake. Absolutely. But people will not shut up about it. People just bash it over and over and over and don't talk about any of the other aspects of Warlords. They just hammer in on that one point, generalizing. You see how I'm kind of tying the thread. I swear I'm talking about the same general topic here. Generalizing. This sort of generalizing, not actually thinking, not really getting into the meat of the matter. People have done that every single expansion prior to Warlords. When Pandaria was out, oh my god, Pandaria is disgusting and horrible, and you would not believe how much negativity everyone just constantly said over and over and over. And it was all about the pandas. Cataclysm comes out, oh god, the dungeons and the raids are terrible, and Wrath comes out, oh, it's too easy, and they added this LFG mode. BC comes out, what is with this quest design? And I think you get the point. So, to continue with my overall thoughts, this is especially relevant because of what we're about to do. We're about to walk into Pandaria. Now, having replayed a lot of Wrath, having replayed a lot of WoW in general over the past however many months it's been at this point, for the Lorerun, I think I can pretty definitively say that Pandaria is actually my favorite expansion now. I feel like it has actually surpassed Wrath. It has amazing quest design, very tight story structure, a big focus on characterization, a big focus on the main plot and plot arcs, tons of background lore. They basically created an entire culture out of the Pandarians. Yes, I know it was based on real-life cultures. I mean, that's not saying anything. That's like saying, yes, I know water is wet. Yes, all fictional cultures are based on real-life cultures. That's how that works. But wealth of lore relevant to the main story. Pandaria was in many ways an establishment story for the arcs we are still seeing unfold in Legion. This was the establishment of so much Titan lore. We learned so much more about the Titans in Pandaria. We learned so much more about the nature of this world and its fight against the old gods. We've learned so much more about the old gods from this one. We really got to see Raytheon. He was practically a main character for the whole thing. Anduin came into his own, finally became his own character. Varian finally started leveling out as a character. Garrosh solidified his position, his role. This is the expansion that gave Jaina Proudmoore actual character development. And I'm sorry, I fully and firmly defend Jaina Proudmoore and her character arc. Some people are like, oh, she's just a Nethrezim, or oh, she's just a thing I'm not going to say out loud on my stream. A word that starts with B. And I look at that and say, no, you're generalizing. She went through hell. Now, I'll talk about this more later, but I think a lot of the people who look at the Jaina situation and just are derogatory towards it didn't see both halves of the story. You literally have to see both halves of the story, because otherwise you are literally seeing half of a story. That is both good and bad, storytelling-wise. But you have to see both sides in order to actually understand what the hell was going on with Jaina Proudmoore and Lorthremar. By the way, Pandaria gave us Lorthremar and turned him into an awesome character. While we're on the subject, it gave us Taran Zu, who while he's a kind of a prat sometimes, I think he was a well done character and had some good moments. It gave us the Klaxi in general. I could keep going. My point is, Pandaria gave us all of this, right? What's the one thing everyone talks about when it comes to Pandaria? Chat's already done it. Kung Fu Panda. Just like how in Warlords everyone fixates on the garrison issue, in Pandaria everyone fixates, even to this day, on the Kung Fu Panda thing. Now, I have mentioned in the past that mentioning the Kung Fu Panda thing would be a bannable offense. I have since decided to pull that back. I have since decided to be more lenient about it, because people are going to make the reference, and some people are going to make it just because they think it's funny or silly, or because they're making fun of people who are making fun of it. And I don't want to be that intolerant on my show. If you push the line, then you get a temp ban. If you start to be negative, as my recent video about negative and positive discussed, if you start being actually negative about it, then we'll talk. But I want to end one more thing about why Pandaria has eked it out above Wrath. It's because Wrath's story was amazing. I mean, that the final climax in all of Storm Peaks and Ulduar, and pretty much all of Icecrown, and the 3 dungeons, and the raid. Yeah, I know, Draculus. And a lot of the build-up, the Howling Fjord. I mean, there's such great stuff in Wrath. But as I was replaying it, I was reminded that they hadn't quite grown out of some of their gameplay design, in my opinion, flaws. There were still things that were excessively grindy. There were still things that were just padding. There were still things that took forever for no reason. Again, it's the padding thing. There were some flaws in the storytelling design through some of the zones. They didn't tie up the way they probably should have in some cases, you know, that kind of a thing. It's a great story underneath all of that. But Wrath feels more like Return of the Jedi for me. If I can explain what I mean by that. The goods are better than Pandaria's goods, but the bads are worse than Pandaria's bads. Does it make sense? By contrast, Pandaria did do several things wrong. In my blunt opinion, Pandaria did the initial daily splurge wrong, and I'll talk about that when we go through it. They really messed up the patch schedule of Pandaria, which takes more of a discussion than just saying that. But suffice it to say, they didn't pace it properly, and so it was like, massive amazing patch! Massive amazing patch! Terrible dinky patch. Mediocre patch, end of expansion. That's pretty much what Pandaria's expansion layout was. And it had some issues, it had some flaws. Timeless Isle was also an interesting thing. I will be talking about that when we get there. Some people think that Timeless Isle... Congratulations, Samurai. Some people think that Timeless Isle is great, some people think it's terrible. I think it was badly executed. I think it's the best way to summarize my opinion on that. And I will talk about that in more detail when we get there. My goodness, my phone is exploding right now. So I have my phone set up to notify me when I get comments and whatnot from YouTube. And apparently I am getting a bunch right now. Yeah, I am. There's a lot of comments coming in. Holy crap. My goodness. Anyways, I'll get to those a little bit later. So, but my point is, I agree with you, Sulfura. For all the bads of Pandaria, none of them really ruined Pandaria for me. By contrast, the goods of Pandaria, oh. You know what the best way I could explain Pandaria for you guys is? Pandaria really made me feel. It really made me feel. The symbolism is everywhere. There's so much heart and emotion and so many character-centric scenes. There's so many awesome scenes. There's so many scenes that are stupid and silly and yet done with just cheeky and enjoyableness. I absolutely adore... Oh yeah, Lore Walker Cho, by the way. Sorry, but this probably doesn't surprise anybody coming from me, the lore runner, but I love Lore Walker Cho. And that's not just because he's voiced by Winnie the Pooh. Although I will say that actor, whose name I just forgot literally just now, Jim Cummings, is a great voice actor, and he really sells the role just fantastically. But yeah, I love Pandaria. I'm sorry, guys. You're gonna hear me gush about this expansion a lot. I'm really looking forward to go through this one. So, but before we get that, we have to, of course, play the intro. Now, I like pretty much all of the... hey, Chaos Rider. I like all of the expansion cinematics. I liked Vanillas, I liked BCs, I liked Wraths, I liked Cataclysms, I liked Pandarias, I liked Warlords, and I like Legions. That being said, one thing, we talked about both Vanillas and BCs, and they weren't great. Vanillas was all about, here's the classes, here's the world. It was a different focus. We've actually already talked about this. BCs was basically more of the same with a little more polish. And let's be honest, that describes Vanilla and BC very well. Vanilla was much more about the gameplay and the world, and BC was much more about polishing Vanilla. Wrath was the first time that story really started taking a front seat. And the trailer showed this. What was the trailer to Wrath all about? It was all about the Lich King. It was all about the interactions with his dead father. And it was all about showing exactly what the Scourge were really about and what they were capable of and what we were up against going north. Big character focus, big story focus. What was Cataclysm's trailer? Well, Cataclysm's trailer was a little bit... I will be showing that on stream, by the way, Reskar. Cataclysm's trailer was a lot more about the changes to the world, but again, a lot more story focused on the threat, on the proximity and the scale and the threat of the danger. You know, the term Cataclysm describes it very well. Pandaria's is basically Symbolism the trailer. And that really does describe Pandaria in a very long-term sense. Now, it does have its flaws, and as Raskar pointed out, it could have been more subtle many times. But every single aspect of the Pandaria trailer is there for a reason. If I could diverge for just a second. Yeah, no kidding, Raskor. If I can diverge for just a second. There's a cutscene in FF13 which I despise. I'm sorry, but this is just my opinion. It's the cutscene where the race begins. It's pretty close to the end of FF13. And I'm not spoiling anything, but there's a big race, Cid's there, and they interfere with it, and it's flashy and sparkly, and it is extremely well rendered. I'm not sure if I'm using quite the right word here. It is extremely well polished. Well, that's not a good word. It's very shiny. It's really, really shiny. Absolute props to Square Enix's cinematic department. They did a great job with that. But Square Enix's director department has never really been that good. Both in terms of voice direction, we've talked about this in the Kingdom Hearts lore runs, and in terms of their visual directing. I honestly think Nomura is one of their only directors who actually has a brain when it comes to visual directing style. Just my opinion on the matter. And even his is extremely stylized, and therefore some people are just not going to like it because it's leaning so far in a given direction. But my reason for bringing that up is Blizzard may or may not be the best cinematic team in gaming. That is an opinion. I do think that personally, but I fully admit that that is an opinion. However, the one thing I will always give Blizzard, and most people I can just discuss with this and get them to agree with me on this, is that their visual directing team is just top-notch. Because they don't waste time. There's not really a lot of flash in Blizzard cinematics. There's not really a lot of excess. There's no fat. There's no padding. There's no sparkly shininess. Every second of the Pandaria trailer, I use that as my example, but this is true across the board, but every second of the Pandaria cinematic trailer is there serving a purpose. It's often pretty obvious, as Raskar pointed out, but it is always there doing something, serving some purpose either for the story, or to emphasize the game, or to emphasize the setting, or see you around Brigwin. Remember to do the hip thing. You know. And I eat that up. I absolutely adore dissecting it. I've actually thought, I really have thought, genuinely in the past, about doing an entire, second-by-second analysis of the Pandaria cinematic trailer. I've really thought about doing this because there's a lot that I can dissect from that minute and a half or whatever. Are you guys seriously blowing up my phone over here on purpose? I am liking the new phone, by the way. Whoever asked, I think it was the Deutsch. It's awesome. And I think that So, I do have to pull up one thing really quick, if you'll forgive me. Because I kind of need to make sure something's working. I was so excited to get started that I kind of spaced that I needed to do something else. So I apologize if you'll give me just one moment. And I will get this set up real quick alike. This shouldn't take long. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to... So, you know what? Actually, while I get this set up, who wants to see something silly and fun? This also helps to emphasize that directing thing I mentioned earlier. Because one of the things, hey, Radagain, that WoW has done, and I've actually fully in favor of this, is they have... Oh, shush, Raskar. They have basically merged they have two cinematic teams, basically. It's actually the same team. But there's the ones doing the pre-rendered CGI stuff, which is very, very costly, very, very difficult, and you know, they basically only put out an expansion, so once every 2 years or so. And then there's the team that does stuff with the in-game engine. One of the great things that's about the fact that they've been pushing forward the engine bit by bit, that really started finding its own in Pandaria, is they've been able to do more and more with that engine. So even though they're basically, it is effectively just, got to put that in quote-unquotes, a machinima, nevertheless, the in-game engine stuff still has the same directing team, same storyboard team as the full cinematic stuff. So it's still high quality, my opinion, of course. Still the same general, presentation value of the pre-rendered cinematic stuff in terms of everything other than the graphics quality, if that makes sense. They also do silly, funny stuff, and we have a bit of a topic to talk about, and we're going to go ahead and talk about it here, and I hope you guys will forgive, because, well, you'll see in just a moment. If this would ever download. There we go. Okay. So I just want to show off something silly and funny that, ironically enough, I also have something to talk about. Yes, I did, Permeus. I also have something to talk about when it comes to everything. You'll see what I mean. So...
Purchase Warlords of Draenor now and receive a level 90 character boost to use instantly.
So, first of all, that was cute. I will, Raskor, don't worry. Notice how he got a mustache when he hit level 90. I do have something real to talk about other than just general praise. But yeah, it's just silly fun, and I really feel like the cinematic department at Blizzard likes to occasionally just stretch and do something like that. Hang on. I do have one more to show you, which is... You'll see. technology, ladies and gentlemen.
Pre-purchase Legion now and receive a level 100 character boost to use instantly.
Yeah, that just happened. So, that's kind of what I mean when I'm referring to the general level of quality from certain Blizzard team. I'm sorry, but they clearly know what they're doing, and they're clearly having a lot of fun with it. Also, the Hosen got a mustache. But let's talk for real for a second. Other than just showing that to you, I got the other thing I wanted to get while that was going on. So yay. There is something to talk about that real quick, and that is level boosting in general. I've been kind of holding off on this topic, but talking about it alongside that is probably the best possible time to do so. So you see this button right here? This is the shop. See this button right here? That is a level 100 level boost. It is $60. I have no idea what it costs in other countries. Their reasoning that they tend to give for the fact that that costs $60 is because of the fact that it is their belief that if they didn't price it the same as a new copy of the game, then people would just buy the new copies of the game instead. In other words, if they didn't price it like that, nobody would buy it. Now, to explain what I mean by that, if you buy a new copy of Warlords or of Legion, you would get a boost, like those two adverts just showed you. So, you know, the logic there. Now, let's be honest, that logic is flawed, and that is what I like to call misleading information. There is a point that they have, legitimate point there, but they're not really discussing the full thing. They are generalizing. There's a very vague thing in the world that's basically called perceived value, okay? In other words, if I give you blah, but you are offering this other blah, and both of these are relatively the same effort put into it, but this feels like it's more, 9 times out of 10, this will be priced higher, whether in money or in trade or in social perception or whatever, right? It takes very, very little, relatively speaking, from their end to give you a level 100 character boost. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm being derogatory towards that. In fact, I've actually seen what the level boosts are like myself, having gotten my free one from both Warlords and Legion, and they were actually surprisingly well done. They had their own separate little quest chain. They had, you know, this custom gear that you would get just to get you started, you know, blah, 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 blah. Well, are you new to my channel, Doc? Of course it's a marketing lecture. Come on, dude. But the point is that perceived value pretty much elevates it in cost and how much they feel they can charge. Supply and demand is a real thing, but supply and demand, in my opinion, has always been surpassed by a stronger marketing concept, and that is what the audience is willing to pay. You see this, $60? That price has not gone down in well over a year of it existing. The 90 boost was that month too. much too. And they have not lowered the price even a little bit. Now, Blizzard makes a lot of mistakes, but their marketing department tends to be pretty top-notch when it comes to this kind of thing, especially with regards to pricing. What I'm trying to say very bluntly is people are willing to pay $60 for that. People are paying $60 for that, and that's unfortunate. And they are being a little bit marketing-y in the terms of how they're trying to convince people. I mean, you saw those 2 videos, right? Those 2 videos were great! But the somewhat insidious nature of that is because those were so great and enjoyable, you're going to be more positively inclined towards thinking of grabbing that boost than you would otherwise, because they're selling it well. Now, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It implies effort and care on the behalf of the person selling. But, this is still kind of a very gray situation, especially since this is one of the biggest problems, in my personal opinion, that WoW has overall, and that's desire to get to the endgame. As I feel like I've shown off very well, and I've gotten literally hundreds of comments and messages from all of you, thank you again, about what you think about the leveling experience in WoW. So many people don't even think about all of the content, all of the story, all of the fun quests, all of the cool stuff you can do from 1 to 60. You know? All of that stuff people just want to skip over. Now, let me make my statement clear. In some cases, that makes sense. I mean, I've done those quests a jillion times. At a certain point in time, it would be nice, and I've made this comment in the Lorerun, it would be nice to be able to level faster, right? It would be nice to be able to kind of skip to the end game. And that's kind of what the level boosts, one of its purposes is. Of course, the removal of illegality is another big purpose, but I don't want to talk about that here. But at the same time, the literally hundreds of comments and messages I've gotten about people who didn't realize that lore was there, people who didn't realize how much content could be enjoyed in that section, that just kind of makes me tilt my head a little bit and think that I feel like Blizzard's marketing department is actually pretty damn good. And I feel like they would be better applying at least some of their effort in emphasizing how much content there is already in the game for people who either never saw it or are never really made the time for it, or something along that, you know what I mean? Just my opinion on it. I suppose I should talk about the illegality thing, just really quick. So for those of you not aware, ever since MMOs have been a thing, ever since EverQuest and Ultima Online, there are 2 very big problems that have always existed in MMOs, and that is gold selling and leveling services, okay? These can take different formats based on the MMO, but these are the same 2 concepts. The leveling services is you basically give your account over to someone who will go mindlessly level for you, and the gold services is you go to someone and say, here's real money, and they give you in-game currency. For the record, I don't think there's anything wrong with buying in-game currency with real money. I know some people think that's ridiculous to buy something fake with something real. I don't think that way at all. After all, I base something fake with something real every day of my life. I play video games for a living, after all. Point being, though, that's been a real problem for a long time. Now, speaking as someone who has studied MMOs since they've come out, and has actually worked on his own MMO, and has really tried... I feel like I can speak with some authority is what I'm trying to say about MMOs. It is my opinion that the best method of combating these 2 styles of unpleasantness is what you're staring out on the screen right now. Doing a legitimate version of this. Varant did this a while ago in EverQuest. Hang on, I'll show you the other thing. Give me just a second. Because you can't get rid of gold sellers. You can spam them, and you can ban them, and you can do all sorts of things, but there's simply always going to be a sufficient market there for them to have... And it's so little cost to them to keep spamming and to keep trying to... I'm in the wrong side of town. To keep trying, that actually flat out getting rid of the gold spammers, actually flat out getting rid of those services, is not feasible. It never has been. Even with a team of people keeping up on that thing, and WoW at this point in history, and has for about 2 expansions, they have a team whose only job is dealing with that, and they still don't keep up. Hey, Azura. This is the other side of it. The WoW token. The completely legal and legitimate version of gold selling and of leveling. making it legitimate, first of all, is a huge security boost. I'll talk about that last, because I think that's the most important thing. Second of all, it completely... It just chops at the knees, those people, because the only way that gold sellers and gold farmers and whatnot are going to remain competitive is if they're somehow selling even cheaper than this. And if they are doing that, then that means their market is actually going to dwindle. And I know what you're thinking. Well, that doesn't make sense. They're selling it for less, and the market's going to dwindle. Yes, because most people are well aware of what that means in order to have that cheap of a service. If they're selling, what is this? Hang on. I think I need to do this way, don't I? Yep. There we go. So if they're selling more than 46,000 gold for less than 20 bucks, that's going to make people raise an eyebrow. That's going to make people say the all-important words, what's the catch? Now, those of us with experience know exactly what that catch is. That catch is they are going to probably hack your account. I mean, this is a high probability at this point. They're probably going to hack your account. They're definitely going to use you as a way to push other gold. They have the possibility of trying to attach you to their accounts in a way that I'm not going to go into. But basically, it makes it so you're looking at them like, huh? And that could get your account flagged, and then you have to go to a GM to get that unlocked. You know, there's all sorts of negative, bad things that can happen if you buy gold from gold sellers. This is triply true for if you're actually buying services like leveling services, because you're literally handing your account over to someone else. You can get permabanned for that in a way that account will never get unbanned. It's gone. They will never unban that for that, right? So my point is, this chops off the knees of the illegitimate services in a way that nothing else ever really has. So as much as I don't like the idea of buying gold, and I don't, and as much as I don't like the idea of buying levels, and I don't, I am still 100% in favor of it being a legitimate service because it was already a service that was being offered by illegitimate sources, by people who are there to screw you over. I would rather they're at least legitimizing it and trying to deal with the security issues, which I'm about to talk about, than the other way. Now, I've actually kind of already talked about the security issues. How easy is it for someone to be hacked who purchases from a gold selling site? I'll go ahead and tell you right now, very easy. It is exceptionally easy for them to put one tiny little JavaScript protocol into their site, and bam, they grab your info, or they grab your account info, or they do any number of a dozen different things they can do. And I know what you're thinking, well, I've got an authenticator. Believe it or not, there are ways around that if you have something on your system. I do have to stress that point. But if you're going to their site to buy gold, you probably have something on your system. That's completely ignoring the people who don't even understand the full complexities of defending your computer from external attacks and hacks and scripts and all that fun, terrible stuff. People who don't know what they're doing are going to be completely blindsided by that. I had a person in our guild back in Wrath who 5 times, this is not a joke, 5 times got his account hacked because he just didn't understand how to defend himself from that kind of a threat. And again, for the leveling services type of thing, or for the farming services, because they sell like honor, for example, they'll go and farm honor for you, or they'll go and farm, levels or gold or whatever, for just leveling services. Again, it's many times worse than it is otherwise, because you are literally handing them your account. Here's my account login. Here's my account password. So I personally feel that again, as much as I don't like buying gold, as much as I don't like buying levels, having that legitimate source for it is infinitely superior, if for literally no other reason than for ensuring that people do not get hacked or banned or screwed up or whatever by the dozens and dozens and dozens of malicious sites that exist out there that try to screw you over. And I wanted to talk about that a bit because, with regards to those earlier videos. I hope you forgive me. Now, I need to text my sister. Just a sec. So, who wants to see the Pandaria opening cinematic? Oh, we absolutely have hyperinflation. The only and what yeah, WoW does suffer from hyperinflation as all MMOs do. Um, well, I shouldn't say that actually, but although some MMOs have it much worse. Look at Lotro sometime. Lotro's hyperinflation has gotten ridiculous. Um, I don't want to talk too much about that, but let's just say that I personally feel it is possible mathematically to have a good balance of gold sinks and gold fountains in order to balance out the economy of a server. I should talk about that really briefly because it was brought up. For those who don't know what I mean, a gold sink is something you buy in-game where the money goes away. To explain what I mean by that, real quick, this is super easy to explain. I just need a vendor. You. No, vendor. Are any of you vendors? You're a vendor. Here. Okay, you see this?
Browse.
I can spend...
Enjoy.
Love that voice. I can spend 10 silver on that two-shoe tabard, okay? If I do that, that 10 silver is gone. For all picture it this way. Any money that goes back into the game system is erased. Doesn't exist anymore. That is a gold sink. It removes the gold from the system. It removes the gold from the economy. It is an absolutely mandatory aspect of any artificial digital economy. There has to be gold sinks. There has to be functions whose only purpose is to remove money. Otherwise, you will not have hyperinflation. You'll have mega super ridiculous uber inflation. It'll just go crazy, right? Gold fountains is the exact opposite. Questing.
Next one is on me.
Looting stuff off of mobs, the garrison missions. Those are gold fountains. That's gold that's coming from the game, being generated, basically, and being put into the economy. Okay? Having a balance between gold coming into the economy and gold coming out of the economy, regardless of what the currency is extremely, extremely important. And it is absolutely mandatory to maintain a proper balance in an MMO's economy. Now, WoW does not have a perfect balance of that. I'm just going to be blunt. WoW has a lot of gold sinks, but most of them are ridiculous gold sinks. Like, I'll give you a direct example. You see this thing right here? This thing's 250,000 gold. This monstrosity. I wouldn't even have this if not for the fact that Hylisk actually donated it to me. Because I didn't have 250,000 gold on all of my characters combined. So this is a massive gold sink. And that does function. It does work. It just doesn't work as well as it should, in my professional opinion. And there are...
Crunchies,
and, you know...
lucky doos and loot.
More stuff like this, I think, is what's more needed for proper gold sinking. In my
I have many wares.
personal opinion, my professional opinion, having massive gold sinks doesn't really work as well as having lots of medium and tons of small gold sinks. But that's just my opinion. Also, hi, Fu. So there we go. We've talked about gold sinks, and we talked about that, and we talked about inflation. My lucky do? Well, it's funny you say that. See this thing? This is my lucky do. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Let's watch that damn trailer.
To ask why we fight is to ask why the leaves fall. It is in their nature. Perhaps there is a better question. Why do we fight? To protect home and family. To preserve balance and bring harmony. For my kind, the true question is, what is worth fighting for?
That was awesome. I could spend so much time just talking about that. You notice how it was actually pointed out in chat, you notice how Chen, that was Chen Stormstout, the Pandaren, never actually attacks the other two. You notice how they weren't able to make any gain against him until they worked together. You notice how they didn't actually resolve their differences. They just were willing to work together against a particular fight. You notice how the human used his weapon as a tool to craft a better weapon. You notice how the orc was willing to use just whatever was on hand without really thinking about it. You notice how the orc refused to sneak attack the human and instead deliberately went out of his way to announce his presence. I could list so many things. I was actually trying to keep track, and I've lost a few because there's just so many things, subtle and not. Again, it's all symbolism. Every second of that video, as I mentioned earlier, is done emphasizing the point. But I would be remiss if I did not show the second half of that. Because the second half... Well, the second half didn't come out until after Pandaria. But I do have to point out that... I do have to show it now because it really... It makes a lot more sense to show it now. So if you will, forgive me.
So... it was a bear?
In a hat!
We fight together. We drink together. We pass out together. Love that. That's another thing I like about Blizzard. They're not really ashamed to do things just for fun. Hey, Proxy. What's going on? I'm almost tempted to run the trailer again, just because there's so much I could discuss there. So we'll actually be doing the Horde first. Not because of any Horde bias. It's actually because I feel like the Alliance storyline leads into the Valley of the Four Winds better. But I do want to show off kind of the intro of both sides pretty quick. So if you don't mind. We'll zip over here. Yeah, Raytheon's over there just like... Ugh. Really? Really? As you can see, by the way, this is the normal suit that has won. I hope you guys are all enjoying how incredibly awesome we look. Also, Horde is clearly better than Alliance. Lord of Terror, I can't even tell if you're trying to joke with me at the moment.
I am pleased to report that the battle at sea goes well, War Chief. Our forces report decisive victories off the coasts of Daenerys and Tol Barad.
Alliance blood spills. This pleases me, General.
There's more. I received word that our southern fleet engaged an Alliance envoy. We chased the royal flagship until it ran aground.
Aground? Where?
Apparently, they found a massive, uncharted landmass, shrouded by dense mists.
And you let the Alliance get there first? Redirect the invasion fleet. General, you and your best veterans will pave our way. Storm the shore and paint this new continent red!
Garrosh Hellscream, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, that is so Garrosh. We have, how many people, I just want you to think about this for a moment, how many people would react to the news of a brand new continent on a well-explored world that people have known the length and breadth of for centuries with, and you let the enemy get there first? That was his first reaction. I love that, because it's so idiot of him. I mean, how many people, imagine if I was running a story, an interactive story or something, and all of a sudden you hear, oh my god, there's this brand new area that somewhere, like, it was hidden, shrouded, but for some reason it's been unveiled now. And like, what would your reaction be? Like, oh my god, wonder what's there, what was hiding it? Is it a threat? Is it an ally? There's so many questions, so much that needs to be done. And Garrosh's first reaction, and I mean within less than a second, just bam, is, oh, you let the Alliance get there first. Keep in mind, he's yelling at Nazgrim, who is not only basically his best general, but also his most loyal general. Well, that's actually not true. He is his best general. He is loyal, blindly loyal, foolishly loyal, but not actually loyal. He doesn't actually believe in the cause. He's not a zealot. Garrosh has other people who are zealots, including the guy whose name I can't remember. I'm gonna look his name up really quick, because I hate him. What's his name? Malkarok. Malkarok is a good example of a zealot who actually believes in Garrosh's cause, who is a full-tilt Nazi, if you will. Nazgrim was loyal, and thus actually still had a brain attached, you know? Just... anyways. It's okay, guys. We're gonna go make Pandaria go faster. Nice touch, though, the fact that Pandaria isn't on the map, as it shouldn't be.
The tip of the Horde spear. No.
Wow, I haven't done this voice acting stuff in forever. I hope you forgive me. I'm really out of practice.
Oh, good. You're here, and not a moment too soon. Do you hear all of that, Velvaxus? They're an alliance that need killing, and I need to round up a veteran crew. You're coming with me. We won't be returning until our assignment's complete, so round up your things and make ready. I'll be aboard the newly commissioned gunship over Bladefist Bay. Don't keep me waiting.
Our orders stand. No.
It's okay, all orcs sound like Garrosh, because I don't know how to do another orc voice. A gnome voice for poor Garrosh? Of course he is, Dominai. I mean, why wouldn't he be? MMO time, am I right? All orcs are Garrosh. Oh, sorry. So here's our brand new gunship. Look how shiny it is. It looks exactly like the other gunships. Seriously, same model. The Alliance at least got a new airship. So, you know, ooh. Let's do this!
Keep your eyes peeled for the Alliance.
Welcome aboard Hillscream's Fist, Velvaxus. This'll be her maiden voyage. Ain't she a beauty? Ah, you smell that, Velvaxus? It's the smell of our home, the lands our kind have bled and died to preserve. And listen, do you hear that? It's the sound of peace and safety, a haven we've carved where our enemies fear to tread. Remember these things. You won't experience them again anytime soon. We have ourselves a war to win. Now get yourself settled. We're shoving off.
Come what may, we fight on.
Through the mists.
We've been flying in this mist for hours, General. The crew grows uneasy.
Back to your post, soldier. We'll find this land, or die trying.
Land ho!
Woo! We're apparently really bored, as you saw us cheer over there. Oh my gosh, you're right, Malaeus. I completely forgot to.
Alliance ship! Port side! Attack!
I like where we're basically shooting fireballs while they're shooting cannons at us. No. Oh crap, I think we took a direct hit. Well, that's the end of the Lorerun, guys. Goodbye! See this debuff? It's called Wake Up Dead. We'll be doing a lot of that in Pandaria. Seriously. Okay. Everything's calm. Stay calm, everyone. Everything's okay. Everything's okay here now. Wow, there's like a village over there or something. I don't know what that's all about. I know, Raskar. So, one thing that I've been asked before to clarify, lore-wise, is like how the story arcs of the Jade Forest line up with each other. So, I love the symmetry of this. As you'll see, we're about to fight a fairly large alliance force, and they're going to be pretty difficult for us. But we're basically going to bring them down through the course of the Horde quests. When we go to the Alliance, we'll be fighting a surprisingly large Horde force and bringing them down through the course of their quest. I mention that because on the Horde side, we're like, for some reason, we're having trouble because we just can't get access to our reinforcements. And on the Alliance side, we're having trouble because we just can't get access to our reinforcements. In other words, and I absolutely love the symmetry of this, the Elite Alliance took out the majority of the Horde, and the Elite Horde took out the majority of the Alliance. And by the end of this zone, there's going to be about 20 people left from the Horde and the Alliance on this continent. That's not even an exaggeration. So both events are actually happening simultaneously, and we're kind of wiping ourselves out on each other. And that's pretty much a metaphor for the Horde versus Alliance thing in general. Yes, I know. I'm still talking about it. I will continue to talk about it, especially in this expansion. I wonder if I can... Yeah, I can. Oh! I can't fly. As you can see, we're having a couple issues on the ship right now. It's okay, guys. We'll be fine. Everything's gonna work out okay. Please proceed in a calm and orderly fashion.
Blood and thunder.
Valvoxus, they told me you were dead. I'm glad to see it wasn't true. There's Alliance to kill. They shut our engines and we floated here. Here! Right into the firing line of the enemy! You know what to do, Valvoxus. Get below deck and man those guns. Show those scums they're in our line of fire.
Fear nothing. The Horde shall prevail.
So one thing every expansion does to some extent or another, but I believe Pandaria does the best. Well, that's not true. Warlords does it better. But Pandaria does it very well. Is initial gear progression. This very first quest is going to give us that, which of course isn't better than our weapon because we're heirlooming it up. But not only does it look really cool, in fact, we're going to be using this as a new transmog. but it's really high stats relative for where we're at this point in thing. And they also added a new mechanic in Pandaria, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's not relevant just yet. I mean, it's relevant now. I love Warlords of Draenor. There's my summarized answer, Lord of Terror. You want a summarized answer, you're getting a brief answer, and there's your brief answer. Love it. Notice how they've kind of streamlined the turret quests a little bit so that the enemies spawn faster, they're tightly clustered, you can kill them quicker. In other words, just reducing the general dull nature of some of the early turret quests.
Ha-ha! That's right! Show them hell!
Wait a minute. By the way, I hope you paid attention to something, because Raskor actually mentioned it. So the rotor ship is a lot less stable. The rotor ship is a lot less stable than a Zeppelin, and this is shown in the Legion cinematic. One rotor blade being taken out caused the whole ship to come plummeting down. If you paid attention, this Zeppelin's engines were taken out, like, way out here, and they just kind of drifted all the way in here, still aloft. You know, just difference. Not Horde versus Alliance, just a difference. Goblin voice, goblin voice. What's my goblin voice?
Superior Horde firepower at its finest. And you did okay too, I guess.
Now, I'm going to stop right now. I want to show a brand new mechanic they added for Pandaria. You see that? This is giving me a big two-handed axe that I want.
Have a good one.
You know what? Maybe I don't want it. Why don't I don't know. I mean, big awesome axes are cool, but you know what would also be cool is if I don't know. Let's see what else he's got to offer. Oh, looks like he's not going to change it.
Yo.
Ah, shoot. Looks like I had to do it earlier.
Hey, how you doing?
Ah, well, let's switch back to red. So they have this thing where, in Pandaria, where you will only see certain quest rewards. To explain what I mean a little bit by this, in all the previous quests, and you've seen this in every expansion previous to now, you would get like a random smattering of quest rewards. You know, there's a shield, and there's an axe, and there's a wand, you know. In Pandaria, there would be types of, hey Jungies, there would be types of rewards that would be specific to types of specs. So in other words, rather than seeing the 15 or so possible rewards you get from a particular quest, you only see the ones that you can equip. And so rather than the 16, you get like 1 to 3, which is both a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because it limits transmog options, and it streamlines it a bit, so some people don't like the lack of options. And it's a good thing because it streamlines it a bit, which makes it so you see what you actually could use as gear, and it's pretty well designed so that you're pretty much always going to be seeing stuff that you would at least enjoy if it is a better gear than your own. I'll talk about the item level thing later, because that's a different topic.
Yo.
Nazgrim's taken command of the ground assaults. Requested you get up there and meet with them immediately. We've had several rappelling ropes set up near the guns. Fastest way down you're gonna find. Save one that ends poorly.
Keep it real.
I think I can manage that. But we do need to rappel to advance the quest. I have actually just jumped down, because there's several classes that can do that, and then had to go back up because that didn't complete the quest. So don't do that. It's okay. If you need to go back up, you can just do this. See, there's a teleporter right there. They specifically added that in the beta, I want to say. Because it was in the beta when I got into the Pandaria beta. Specifically so that you could get back up if you decided to do... here, I'll demonstrate. If you decided to do something along the lines of this. Whee!
For the Horde.
There you are. I was starting to worry we'd have to charge in and have all the fun without you. We've softened them up. Now it's time to finish them off. That fortress must be cleansed of Alliance, and we've nowhere to keep any prisoners. You know what to do, Valvaxis. The cowards will run if you give them a chance. See that you don't.
Hellscream's eyes.
Oh, and it's not enough that we destroy their forces. Nothing must be left for them to salvage. Take this flare gun, fire it into their munition stockpiles. Leave them nothing. No, I don't think it would be better to try and conquer it and take the supplies for ourselves. What do you think we are? Lone forces, desperate for supplies and munitions? Don't be ridiculous. I want to point this out. You see these? These are tigers. Now, I'm not just pointing them out because they're cool looking. You notice they're yellow and they're wary? They're probably a little wary because there's this big noisy battle going on, but they're not hostile. Keep that in the back of your mind. Paladin. So one other thing that Pandaria started doing that Warlords continued, and Legion will apparently continue even more, because they've just been doing more and more of this over time, is more voice acting. There's a fairly large amount of voice acting in Pandaria, and a lot more voice acting in Warlords, and again, supposedly even more voice acting in Legion. I don't know if that's true personally, because for some reason I didn't get the beta, but yeah. I mention it because it's one of the things I feel is also another reason why Pandaria was such an excellent expansion. One of the many reasons why I feel it was an excellent expansion. Although apparently I am just a LFR terrible person who is the main reason why people keep wiping on Blackhand. So, you know, in my opinion, it doesn't actually matter here. By the way, nice touch here, and I do actually like this. The Alliance forces here are fairly diverse. We've got dwarves, we've got night elves, we've got worgen, we've got humies, we've got Fu, who wanted to mention something. Now, one thing I think they did kind of well here in comparison to Pandaria is they start right slap bang off with lore, with story. The very first thing that happens is we have this big plot-driven, basically mini-event. It's not actually instanced like, say, the Death Knight Starter Zone was, or the beginning of Warlords is also an instanced zone. But in every way that matters, this might as well be an instanced zone, because this is a self-contained story that tells the intro to the expansion. And then it gets back to, you know, the more normal stuff. I kind of mention this because Cataclysm actually didn't have something like that, really. Cataclysm just started right off with the slow build into the overarching story, both with Hyjal and with Deepholm. Although Deepholm could be debated, and I don't want you to sound like I'm being derogatory towards Deepholm, because I absolutely love Deepholm. But it was a really nice breath of fresh air, I guess, getting into Pandaria. And the first thing that happens is this big pseudo mini-instance event of us charging this old well, actually, it's an old Mogu temple with tons and tons of Alliance and trying to bring down the enemy. Death to the Alliance. So we're going to be talking a lot of background lore stuff in Pandaria, because Pandaria just lives and breathes background lore. This game probably added more to this expansion probably added more to the setting of WoW in WoW than anything else ever has. And I mean that sincerely. While other expansions have had good plot, have had good characterization, have had good thematic significance and whatnot, character development, Pandaria really fleshed out the world of Azeroth, the setting, and went into the details of the Titans, went into the details of the Mogu, went into details of, all the little background flavor details. And so we're going to be talking a lot about the Mogu, a lot about the Pandarans. We're going to be talking about the nature of the Titans. We're going to have tons of stuff to talk in this expansion. Notice I haven't stopped talking yet, and I think that's a pretty good sign, personally. Now I'm going to stop talking just to contradict myself. No. Now I want to mention something else. Of course, Malaeus. Why wouldn't I? That Raskor just mentioned. We'll see something similar to this on the Alliance side too. So I don't think this is a Horde-centric thing. But both sides have a sort of a natural arrogance. And this is
understandable arrogance, but it is still arrogance, and it is still a flaw for both sides. They tend to assume that they're the biggest... I don't know how to call it. They're the biggest fish in the sea, basically. The Horde and the Alliance. And any other factions are subsequent or subsidiary or otherwise just smaller in significance compared to the Alliance and the Horde. Those are the two big dogs on the planet. And that's understandable, since for the most part that is actually true. Hey, Kay. But it really does inform a lot of the actions they take, especially in this expansion. For example, you see that right over there? I mentioned it earlier. There's a village right over there. There's a little farm area, and there's a little village, and there's a little town thing. There's a gate. We'll be seeing that in up close later. And the Horde shows up, and their first thought is, Alliance! Because, I mean, the only thing that matters is the thing that can match them, right? The only thing that matters is the thing that's on their level. At no point does it occur to these people, and again, this is true on the Alliance side as well, to really consider the natives as relevant until they get their teeth knocked out. In both cases, the Alliance and the Horde both kind of get their teeth knocked out. And then, once they are struggling and in need of help, okay, we'll acknowledge the locals whose land this is, and we'll try to start working with them, that kind of a thing. Yeah, I agree, Fu. Yes. So another thing that Pandaria started doing a lot is telegraph attacks. For those of you who've played WildStar, you know exactly what telegraph attacks are, because the vast majority of attacks in WildStar and 100% of player attacks in WildStar are telegraph attacks. What I mean by that, and I'll hopefully demonstrate another one in a second, I'm just going to watch these two so I can visually demonstrate, is when you see something appear on the ground and it's like, this is an indicator that something... Here, right there. You see this up here? Right there. There's just these spots for a moment, and then... that's a telegraphed attack. I've actually spoken before, and I will speak again, about how I very, very strongly believe that a full telegraphed attack system is how you make an action RPG MMO and get rid of a lot of things. In fact, I've often said I feel like WoW in general, or WoW in specific, would absolutely, definitely benefit from a full telegraph system similar to what WildStar had, to the point where even a tank would actually be somewhat unnecessary to the group if everyone knew how to dodge the attacks. Same with a healer. Making tanks and healers no longer required because you can literally, physically move and dodge attacks. I feel would add a lot of life to the game, and would be a lot of fun. I'm not going to say it absolutely has to happen, but I've talked about this before. Moving on. And so we'll be seeing a lot of those telegraph attacks and a lot of the boss designs and a lot of the regular mob designs throughout the whole of the expansion.
Nothing shall stand in our way.
Fire is always the answer. Good work, Valvoxus. Leave them nothing.
Come what may, we fight on.
Good work, Paladin. We have them on their heels. We've learned their captain has barricaded himself in above us. The coward allowed his forces to die while he hid from our fury. Typical Alliance. No matter, he cannot delay his fate any longer. I will scale the walls with my marines, while you lead a frontal assault up the ramps. Use your flare gun on the munitions near the barricades to blast your way through. We'll meet up top and destroy this pathetic excuse for a captain together.
Hellscream's eyes are upon.
See, I've often felt, Zagoten, that was one of Guild Wars 2's biggest flaws. Because they didn't do that, did they? They didn't actually do what I'm talking about. They tried to get rid of the Holy Trinity of... healer, tank, DPS, but they still made it so you can't dodge attacks, which means you always need healing, and if you can direct attacks in any way, which some casters can, you would have an advantage, which means tanks were a thing. So they didn't actually get rid of the Holy Trinity. They just made it really irritating and frustrating to deal with. Yes, little Billy, it's a little under a year. With the absence of the Cataclysm and Deathwing, the war has been raging full tilt, and it's been rather unpleasant for the world as a whole. Yeah, exactly. Permeus knows exactly what I'm talking about. If Guild Wars 2 had gotten rid of white damage, it would have actually worked. They didn't. Again, I feel like WildStar failed at this too, because WildStar also didn't fully get rid of white damage. Well, that depends, Lord of Terror. There's actually an extremely easy way to bypass that. It's called the DPS timer, or a Harden Rage. For those of you not aware, I'm sure most of you are, but just to clear it, a Harden Rage is you have X amount of time to beat a boss, and then he freaking kills you. That's pretty much what a Harden Rage is. Soften Rage is a totally different mechanic. So Harden Rage's entire purpose is, if you want to go after a boss with one guy and slowly kill him, you can't, because you will not be able to do enough damage in order to outpace that timer. Make sense? Yeah. Now that being said, getting rid of the Holy Trinity, there's lots of ways to do this balance-wise, and I'm only discussing a few little details of this. But for example, imagine if you could have 3 healers in a party, or 3 tanks, or 3 DPS, or any mix of the 3 type. In other words, what I'm trying to say is you don't need to get rid of the Holy Trinity, you need to get rid of the mandatory nature of the Holy Trinity. That's my opinion on the matter. That's why I like the telegraph system, because that enables that. You could have a party of 3 DPS, and if anybody screws up, you're dead. However, you're going to kill things very quickly. You can have a party of 3 healers and be able to take stuff pretty easily, because even if you screw up or even if you face tank, you're still going to be able to compensate for that. But you're going to be killing things pretty slowly, so you're going to have to really push DPS in some cases. You get the idea. Alright, so, let's take out Captain Doran.
You scum will not destroy this land as you defiled Kalimdor!
Defiled Kalimdor? Really? Oh god. Oh god. No! No! My ship! No. Press F to pay respects. Oh! Oh, I'm glad that missed the village. Oh, I'm glad that missed the village. That'd be a lot of people dead. That was a big ship.
What is... No. No! They had an airbase! In an airbase! My ship! My... Ah!
Notice he's losing his color.
Hellscream will have my head! Blood and thunder.
An airbase. They had an airbase this entire time. Had I known, had I kept more men on the guns.
The color drains from his face, and his body begins to exude a mysterious dark energy.
Our orders stand, no matter the cost. They all must die. You, bear creature. What kind of sorcery was this?
Stranger, your own doubts have been made manifest. Pandaria is not like whatever land you come from. It lives and breathes. You should be careful what kind of energy you bring here.
Ha! We bring only our honor and the desire to crush our enemies. Have your kind been aiding the Alliance?
It is not our desire to get wrapped up in your bloodshed. Now have your men lower their weapons, or you will face 2 enemies on this continent.
I do like how they do lower their weapons there. One thing Nazgrim respects is strength, and Taranzu came at him pretty strong there. Oh, this is Taranzu, by the way, Lord of the Shadow Pawn. We'll be discussing the Shadow Pawn a little bit later, but they're the closest thing to a military the Pandarans have. They're not actually a military. It would be probably more accurate to call them special forces. Elite, basically.
Keep your eyes peeled for the Alliance.
The assistance of the nearby village has now become a necessity, Velvaxis.
You notice how I mentioned earlier that it's only when they're punched in the teeth that they think about the village? I mentioned this because, again, they knew the village was there, or they just didn't care.
We will need to use the village to regroup and tend to our wounded. Perhaps the villagers will join our cause after seeing the brutality unleashed by the Alliance. You will act as envoy for the Horde. Ensure the cooperation of their leader. Do not disappoint me.
May our foes flee before you.
They have an airbase. I have underestimated this Alliance captain for the last time. So many good warriors lost. There must have been a few survivors who were able to bail during the crash. We need every able-bodied fighter we can get. Find as many survivors as you can in the forest below, and I will investigate the wreckage itself. Rally everyone together at the nearby village for a counterattack.
Fear nothing. The Horde
Go
shall
back and
prevail.
ruin your own land.
I do not know the history of this war that you fight, and I am not interested. This land responds to negative energy in kind. The hatreds, doubts, and violence that you have brought here now ooze out of Pandaria like blood from an open wound. Your actions have wrought havoc on these ruins. Clean up after yourself and meet me in the village below. I will do my best to explain what is happening here.
Pandaria is better off without you.
And the sad thing is, that is a true statement. Yeah, I agree, Lord of Terror. They really made the Pandarians fit very well. As I said before, my favorite culture overall... Well, that's a lie. My second favorite culture overall in the setting is the Pandarians. My favorite's the Trolls. Absolutely love what they did with the Trolls. So these little suckers are Shaw. We'll talk about the Shaw more later. I think there's a much more appropriate time to discuss the Shaw. I know the exact moment I want to really start discussing the Shaw. Do notice that even being right next to some of this Shaw energy kind of does this impact and injury upon us. My friend Pax has a theory about the Shaw visualization thing, by the way, that I will share much later. Shaw are not a type of Loa, no. Shaw are a distinctly old god byproduct. Similar to the Naraki. Just less flesh, more energy. You remember how when we were going through Final Fantasy X, we were talking about how water had such a thematic significance to the overall setting, and it was present throughout the whole thing, right? There's kind of a similar thing to the Shaw, and to Pandaria in general, for what amounts to the same reasons. The basics of it is that if you can picture, these things are effectively negative energy elementals, but their actual physical form is consistent of a viscous black oil. And that's every bit as gross as it sounds. So it's kind of a similar approach there. I feel like they did a good job with the effects of it. Right, I don't have flying yet. Whee! I missed. Oh well. Ow. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, everything's on fire. Notice how the tigers, who I mentioned earlier, are now hostile and glowing with the same black, viscous, oily energy. I mean, I know a lot of you have played this game before, but I know some of you haven't, and I wanted to point out that... Oh, excuse me. That's a weird feeling. I feel like something just jabbed me in the eye. I can't see what I'm doing. I am super blind without my glasses. There we go. Oh. Oh, I will rat again, but not until much later. I've decided the best point to do that at. So, in case you can't see, these are miniature kegs of beer. Fakey as soon as I'm financially stable.
Oh, hello. Travel safe.
Hang on. So, you remember how I mentioned there's a lot... yes, there is, Colonel, but I'll get to that. There's a lot of characterization in Pandaria, a lot more character focus. So a lot of that is little, too. There's these characters on both the Alliance and the Horde that we encounter here in the Jade Forest, and we encounter them later in the Kunlai Summit. Yeah, Kunlai Summit, that's right. And we see little tidbits of them after this point. And they flesh out... these characters somewhat decently. They're not super in-depth. They're not mega, well designed. They're just characters that have little foibles and little aspects to them and little bits of personality that help distinguish them from each other. And each of them centers around a major leader, Admiral Taylor on the Alliance and General Nazgrim on the Horde. Eurovision. So, this is Shademaster Kirin. She is a Forsaken.
I heard you coming a mile away.
Kirin stares blankly up at the sky and doesn't respond. Snap out of it! You're alive! Nazgrim's ordered us to report to the nearby village.
Quick and clean, friend. Quick and clean.
She took a pretty nasty spill. The damage is horrific. I haven't been able to wake her. Oh, you mean she looked like this before the crash? Well, I have an interesting idea. An old brewmaster trick. It involves splashing someone in the face with booze. Good as new, I guess. What happened? I barely made it off the ship before it went down. Thank you. I'll make my way to the village. Stay safe. Stealth. Walk away. Stereotypical, of course. Undead rogue.
Welcome.
The animals have all gone crazy. Normally the prowlers stay clear of the village, but now we can't seem to keep them away. I've never seen them act this way before. The mayor has summoned the Shadowpan, but they are not all here yet. Can you take care of the prowlers before they maul one of our farmers?
May your days bring you joy.
Greetings, Wanderer.
Oh, just look at this mess. All that brew gone to waste. Taranzu warned us against speaking to outsiders, but I'll take any help I can get. We were on our way to Dawn's Blossom to deliver our brew when the fighting broke out. Now all of our brew has been lost. Do you want to make it up to us? Maybe you can find some of our honey brew barrels that haven't yet been broken. Then it wouldn't be a complete loss.
May the mists protect you.
Come forth, my friend. Let us gather the beer. I will help carry the barrels. Oh, did you think they were going to magically fit in your bag? My village will not enter into your conflict, though I fear your arrival has changed our peaceful existence forever. Heavy, but I can hold more. Keep going. Why have you brought your war to our land? What of your homes? Was there nothing worth fighting for there? Ouch, by the way. I may have overestimated my own strength. Notice how he's carrying these, by the way. So he's got one under each arm, and one on his shoulders, basically, and one strapped to his back. So let's talk about Ghost Iron, because this is actually a good time to talk about that. Ghost Iron is so named because, and this is hilarious, this is the second time a metal we've used has been something infused with Old God energies. Yes, Ghost Iron is literally regular iron that has had Shah energies, which is to say the energies of Yasharaj, the Old God, infused into it over millennia of existing. Don't worry, we're not done yet, Deutsch. There's another one. The honey brew is the lifeblood of this village. Now that is something worth fighting for. One more. Thank you for your help. I'll make sure to get this honey brew back to the village. Try not to blow anything else up. You know, this continent lives and breathes in order to make it into awesome equipment. Nice little touch there. Hang on just a second. I need to transmog something.
Shop, browse, smell.
I love Grommels. Just saying. Ghostly energy kind of seeping off of the Shah energy there. It's very faint because this isn't infused. This isn't, I'm using the wrong words. This isn't concentrated. It's just a few little wisps of that Shah energy in the iron there. And yeah, we can use the motes of harmony, which is something else that drops in Pandaria off of everything, because harmony is kind of what, you know, this continent lives and breathes, in order to make it into awesome equipment. Nice little touch there. Hang on just a second. I need to transmog something.
Shop, browse, smell.
I love Grommels. Just saying.
Farewell, friend of the Grummels.
So now we've got For the Horde, the axe. So this is like the Horde axe. Hey, Mugwump. Okay. There's a recurring theme. It basically has to do with the naivete. You remember how on the Wandering Isle we mentioned how the Pandarans there just didn't have a scope or concept for how bad can get? It was a major theme throughout all of the Wandering Isle. That's true for a lot of here, too. And we've already encountered it a few times. So casually talking about, oh, don't blow anything up, or don't wreck anything, or, oh god, someone might get mauled from random tigers attacking. Now, I know those all sound like bad things, but given this setting, given that this is freaking Warcraft, that is, like, not even on the scale of how bad can get here. But that's just generally how things work for these people. These people do not understand how bad can get, because they've never had to deal with that. Remember, the Mogu have been non-existent, not literally, but they have been non-relevant for millennia, and the Saurok have been doing their own thing off in the distance. The Mantid are very, very contained in the way they function. They basically have no real threats to deal with. One of the things I've actually likened Pandaria to is Pokemon. Hear me out. I know some people disagree with me on this, so I'm just going to go ahead and say my interpretation of Pokemon. My interpretation of Pokemon is that it's a world where you can send a 10-year-old out on their own, out into the world, and that's totally cool, and they'll be fine, and you know they'll be fine. And really, I don't feel like I need to add anything to that. You can't do that in real life. I couldn't send... Well, okay, my daughter's 13, but still, I couldn't send my daughter out into the wild and just say, you know, here's $500, have fun, and have that comfort and security of knowing that she's fine, that she'll be taken care of. That's what the Pokemon world is like. They still have, you know, bad, but they don't have as bad can get. The Pokemon setting just doesn't even begin to comprehend how horrible things can be. Same thing with Pandaria. Here, they have their own difficulties, they have their own flaws, they have their own problems, but if we're comparing the severity to the rest of the world, they're way down here. And it's funny to me because this was brilliant on Blizzard's part when it came to storytelling style. This is a bait and switch. Pandaria was presented as if it was... Pandaria was presented as if it was a break expansion, and it kind of was. And yet, if you actually think about the plot and story of... yeah, sure enough, Malaeus. If you actually think about the plot and story of Pandaria, of this whole expansion, this is some really serious, dangerous, long-term affecting things that happen. The entirety of the Raytheon main storyline happens in this. The descent and fall of Garrosh happens. The culmination of the war between the Horde and the Alliance happens in this plotline. We find out about the Thunder King. We see the final last hurrah of the Troll Empires, of the Zandalari conglomerate. There's tons of main, serious, dark plot in Pandaria. But it's opened up as if it's this lighthearted break expansion, and it kind of is in some ways. They introduced the pet stuff here, which I actually really like. They showed, you know, a lot of these initial quests are very just, you know, dealing with little problems. And then it just kind of builds a little bit and builds a little bit until a certain moment, which I know, you know, a lot of you have already played this game and already know the moment, but then it just suddenly becomes obvious that this is real, that stuff just got real, and that we're going to have to deal with that. So yeah, I really like the bait-and-switch nature of Pandaria's overall presentation. It's, again, one of the reasons I like it. Anyway, sorry, I just... So, to again emphasize that naivete, this is a goblin, Rivet Clutchpop, who is stuck in a tree from his parachute, and she's trying to get him out with a staff, because, I mean, what else are you going to do, right?
What is your hurry? Stay focused.
Oh,
Keep
come on.
the
Time
peace.
is money, friend.
Get me out of here, Valvaxis. This lady's gonna kill me. Quit messing around and use your knife. Nazgrim wants you to report to the village immediately.
Have a good one.
Oh, all right. Don't get your trousers in a bunch. I'll meet you back at the village. You need to seriously rethink your definition of help, lady. You're dangerous with that stick.
Patience. Patience.
I like how people are already disagreeing with my Pokemon interpretation. That's fine. That's why I renamed it the Pokemon interpretation. Because I know people disagree with me on it. So here's Shokia. Beautiful, gorgeous, incredibly sexy Shokia. If you don't get the joke, you will later. An orc.
Oh, am I still alive?
What happened? Where are we? On your feet. Nazgrim's organizing a counterattack. We're regrouping at the village.
I aim to serve, and I never miss.
Regrouping. In the village. I think I can make it. She is our sniper. Which I actually kind of like, because it kind of goes against what you would imagine from the stereotypical orc. She's basically the Hawkeye of the group from the MCU. Yes, Jujus. That's such a weird question.
Hello. Jade Serpent guy.
Yes, I do have a daughter. She is turning 14 this November. Now, the funny thing to me, a lot of the Pandarians have only heard about these foreign creatures and barely know what to do with these foreign creatures. And yet, for any of the foreign creatures, we've heard of Pandarians. We've encountered Pandarians from the Wandering Isle. We've seen some of the Pandarians who interact with the rest of the world. So they're not completely unknown to us, even though we are completely unknown to them. As you can see, their field here is on fire, and they're very upset about that. After all, if their field is on fire, they might lose the latest brew harvest.
Tell me of your travels.
See? They'll lose their brew.
Farewell.
Also, welcome back, Fu. So one other thing they did in Pandaria, which I'll go ahead and talk about while I'm doing this, is they kind of completely revamped cooking. For good and for bad. Call me a weirdo, but I really enjoyed cooking in Pandaria. There's a lot of it. It stretches out in a lot of directions. You can do a lot with it. There's multiple paths to progression, and you don't have to do all of them if you just want the gameplay benefit of cooking, and there was significant gameplay benefit of cooking in Pandaria. Then you could just do one of the particular paths, one of the types of cooking. Let's see, there's like baking, grilling, boiling. I can't remember all of them right now. Forgive me, I can't remember all the different types. But you only have to do one of them for the gameplay benefit. You can do all of them if you want everything, if you want to be a completionist, which is fun. Yes, Raskor. No, Jaina Proudmore. It has not been fixed. That hard drive is dead. Dead and gone. And that sucks.
This land is ours. It just doesn't know it yet.
This is a more stereotypical orc. I shouldn't be alive, Blood Elf. I should have died with the rest of my brothers. We need to regroup, Sergeant. Go to the nearby village.
Find the Alliance. My axe hungers.
Yes, Paladin. No time for mourning. Let us avenge our fallen brethren and claim this land for the Horde.
By the way, I'd like to thank you all again for your continued patronage and your continued donations. If not, I wouldn't have been able to afford the $200 hard drive I bought earlier today in order to replace the one that is permanently dead. So thank you, guys. Okay, what do we got here?
Take one step closer, and I'll attack. I swear.
There's no need to attack. It's okay, guys. It's okay. What the? Whoop. Hang on just a second, guys. Yeah, most of my WoW data, and by which I mean all of it, was lost. And I mean just lost. It's gone. It's bad. I'm not going to describe the details. I already did that earlier, basically. There we go. So, yeah. Anyways, back to the game. So once again, just to really emphasize... yeah, I got a 6 terabyte. That's what I got, Bregman. I have a new plan of backupping that I'm going to start implementing. I hadn't been doing it because it's expensive, but this is ridiculous. So, their defense force here against these invaders is they hastily threw together a bunch of carts and crates and came out here with pitchforks and a staff. I love it. I absolutely love it. Again, this goes back to that whole naivete thing with the Pandarians, how this is the equivalent of their guards. You know, most other places will have people with armor and weapons and all that stuff. They have some random nearby smatterings and tools. As an aside, I just feel like sharing this because this is true. If I had the availability to settle somewhere in WoW. I don't mean like live a life in WoW of adventure and contributing and you know, fighting against the Legion and helping the Army of Light, you know, none of that. That's not what I'm talking about. If I had to retire somewhere, I'd retire in Pandaria. This place is so the kind of place I would like to live in. It reminds me of the Shire in many ways from Lord of the Rings, especially the movies. You know, that peaceful, idyllic, simple, down-to-earth, small problems kind of a life, you know? Yes. But anyways.
Come, speak with me.
Well, it's not as much as I would have hoped, but it will have to do. I guess there's no sense in crying over spilled brew.
May your deeds live on in story.
Well, thank you. So we kind of missed the conversation here. The mayor says,
should we allow them to stay here? They have wounded to tend to.
And the elder says, they bring more destruction to our village. And the sergeant's, this is the stereotypical orc, not Nazgrim, I want to point out.
How can you remain neutral after watching them blow us out of the sky?
And then the elder says, well, what about the bombs that landed in our farms from your warship? His response,
those are casualties of war.
Her response, a war we did not have until you arrived.
Welcome.
Your fighting has brought much destruction to our tiny village. We have no interest in your war, but we will not turn your injured away.
There is no hurry.
Well, Meadfist, I would personally disagree with that. Remember, the Mantid are only a problem about once a century, and the Shadowpawn pretty much deal with that. And then the Mogu slavers haven't been an issue for several millennia, and only recently started rising up because of things we'll talk about when we get there. And now that that's been dealt with, they're no longer a problem. So, while you are right, both of those aren't really a concern anymore. Also, given what happens in Pandaria, I don't think the Mantid will ever be a problem again.
Blood and thunder!
These are the only survivors? So be it. We will play the hand that fate has dealt us. Numbers be damned. This is where heroes are made. For the Horde!
For the Horde!
That's true, Malaeus. That's true. So, if you keep a track, we have got Sergeant Gorok, the stereotypical orc. We've got Shademaster Kieran. We've got, I can't remember his name, but he's the Goblin. We've got Shokia, and we've got Nazgrim and us. You probably thought I was exaggerating when I mentioned this earlier. 6 people on both sides are the only survivors of the main force. And so by the time the Jade Forest is done, the Alliance and the Horde will have a force in Pandaria combined of about 12 people. I said about 20-ish to account for additional players, but you get the point. I absolutely think Legion would be a good time to get into WoW. I think now would be a good time to get into WoW. The 1 through 60 experience has never been more enjoyable, in my opinion. Lots of good story there, as I showed off during the Cataclysm run. If you don't feel like leveling, if you don't feel like questing, there's lots of other paths still. You could go PvP, you could do instances, you could race through stuff, you could drop money on it if you really felt like it. Yeah, I'd say this is a great time to get into WoW, especially since Legion is looking really, 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 really story-focused. I mean, really story-focused. I keep talking about how each expansion has a stronger single-player feel to it because of the emphasis on story. Legion is taking that has continued that trend. It is once again becoming even more story-focused than Warlords was, than Pandaria was, than Cata, than Wrath, and BC.
I have had enough of your kind.
Of course it is, Halfman. Do you see me in a group? That's funny you say that, Lord of Terror. Because I don't agree. With them, I should say.
I am glad you took responsibility for your actions. Left unchecked, negative emotion can quickly overwhelm the individual here, just as they started to overwhelm the one you call Nazgrim.
I am finished with you.
Ah, so your conflict at the ruins is beginning to pollute the local wildlife. This is very troubling. I have never seen a reaction so intense. Thank you for protecting the village, but it is a tragedy those poor animals had to die.
Leave.
What news, friend?
You mean to bring to our shores. The very land itself will respond to your passions and your violence. I do not know what the ultimate consequences will be. Nobody does.
What
Lion's blood must spill.
Rivet claims to have seen Zinja in abandoned ship with the rest of the survivors. That means he's still out there somewhere. We can't leave him behind. He could be injured. Or worse yet, captured! Go track down Zinja. Bring him back.
Our enemies must fall.
You may give these soldiers quarter at your discretion, but we are not choosing sides. This conflict is little more than a race war. Their hatreds would engulf this land. We will have no part in this. I must go. There are others who have landed on our southern shores.
I wonder who those would be. So, Terran Zoo refers to the Horde versus Alliance conflicts by two terms that I enjoy. One is race war, which you just heard. The other is a blood feud. I like both because both are accurate. So there's our ship, by the way, or what's left of it. And, yeah, as you can see, it, didn't take its landing particularly well. As an aside with regards to the 1 through 60 content, I think the 1 through 60 content is fine. 1 through 100, that's a little trickier. Because it is not linear. It's not, well, as I said before, 1 through 60 was a treat. And then I hit BC and couldn't wait to get it over with. And then I hit Wrath, where the story was good, but the quest still had issues. And then I hit Cata, and then it was fun again. That's generally my perspective. Like, in terms of quality, it's like, and that's the leveling experience. So, I think, yeah, I think that 1 through 100 could be smoothed out. But in my personal opinion, that needs to be more in the BC Wrath era than the 1 through 60. I felt like they did a good job in 1 through 60 with Cataclysm. You know, it's a good thing that we've got a humble king who doesn't need giant statues of himself to commemorate his awesomeness or anything like that. That would just be silly.
We've made a thorough inspection of the wreckage, Your Majesty. There is no sign of Admiral Taylor or his ship.
200 ships at my disposal, yet the one carrying my son goes missing. What of their last message? Show me whatever you have.
We have been drawn off course. Horde air fleet. Many casualties. Shipwrecked on an uncharted isle. But the White Pawn is accounted for. Repeat, the White Pawn is safe.
Anduin.
Surprise attack! Requesting immediate, if anyone's received.
Sir, the 7th Fleet has already been dispatched, but it could take weeks before it...
There's no time to waste. We'll send a small elite force to secure this new land and bring back my son.
You know, Permeus has a good point. Stormwind nobles are really stupid. So let's go work for SI-7, shall we? Let's go find the White Pawn. And how's that for a wonderfully, it's almost insulting to refer to someone as White Pawn as their code name, right?
Reporting in?
I don't have a Night Elf voice, do I? Our role is of the utmost importance. Admiral Taylor, woo, and his flagship have gone missing. More importantly, the young prince was with him, and it is our primary objective to bring him back home safely. Well, you heard the king. Admiral Taylor's last transmission came from somewhere on the southern seas. We will begin our search from the air, locate the prince, the White Pawn, and it is our critical priority. The Skyfire is fueled, supplied, and ready to depart. She and her crew idle in the sky, just north of the harbor. Make your last preparations, then meet Admiral Rogers on the deck. We will depart without delay.
I'm counting on you.
Let me just say, I like Nazgrim and Taylor basically equally. I think they are both awesome characters. Nazgrim had an awesome send-off. Taylor did not. I really hope we see more of Taylor in Legion. And for those, I don't want to spoil Legion, so everyone keep quiet about the things that I know some of you know about. But based on the Nazgrim thing, I'm hoping we'll get a Taylor thing, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Yes, Malaeus. I can't believe I forgot that last time. So this is the airship the Alliance get. Let me just go ahead and say that this airship is really cool looking. This is actually a carrier. This is actually the first of its kind in lore. The very, very first Alliance carrier. As you can see, they've got gyrocopters up here. In addition to the fact that it's got its usual complement of firepower. So this is basically a battleship carrier. And yeah, that's just really cool. That being said, as we've already talked about, and as they'll discover in Legion, it's a little bit on the unsteady side. And this the I was gonna say, I don't think this is the exact same ship because of things that'll happen in a few minutes. But yeah, a ship like this is the one you see in the Legion cinematic trailer. You know, the one that plummets to the ground because one of its I can't think of what these are called. One of these things got knocked out. Carriers. I should have said that carriers arrived. Okay, so why don't we investigate the ship just a little bit before we charge in here. If I can find them. I like how it has two captains, by the way. That makes a degree of sense. Actually, technically it has three captains, but it's got the captain of the squads, and then it's got the squadrons, and then it's got the captain of the ship itself. Where? Oh, right. I gotta do this, don't I? So normally I could come in through the bomb bay, but it's closed. Yes, Varian sends us to Pandaria to rescue his son. Keep in mind, lore-wise, this is not too long after he almost lost his son to the stupidity in Ironforge. If you don't remember, a brief reminder. When Moira first took over Ironforge, she did it in an extremely stupid, ham-fisted way that kind of trapped Anduin there and led to some issues, and Anduin literally had to be rescued. So Varian at this point in history is kind of when it comes to his son. Now, you might be asking, what the heck was Varian doing on a ship anyways? Well, the answer to that's actually really obvious. He was going to, or from, we're not actually sure which, but I believe it's from, interacting with Valen. I couldn't think of his name for a second. The Prophet Valen, the leader of the Draenei. Anduin did a lot of talking with Valen. And in my personal opinion, that did Valen a lot more good than it did Anduin. So anyways, here's our crew. Okay, so here's Sully, the Pickle.
I get the right tool for the job.
This is Nim Kojak.
Hi, how are you?
Over here we have Mishka, one of my personal favorites, because she's a Draenei with, like, sunglasses. What more do you need?
Can I help you?
We've got Amber.
Hello.
And the other Kojak brother, or husband. I'm actually not sure which. Now, if you're paying attention, some of these are kind of parallel. We've got the typical
You got something to report?
soldier guy. We've got the goblin equivalent in Two Gnomes. We've got the sniper.
What's your report, Agent?
And we've got the, well, she's actually a priest instead of a sniper. Or, a priest instead of a rogue, excuse me, but same general equivalent there. The outsider.
This is the most powerful ship in the fleet.
So, the Skyfire has had a complete overhaul since our encounter with Deathwing. We now carry a full complement of both fixed-wing and gyro aircraft, as well as a battery of 18-inch smoothbore shore bombardment cannons. The Horde won't be able to hide from her reach. Not on land, not at sea, not in the air. You really have it in for the Horde, don't you? I grew up in South Shore. My parents are buried there. What's left of them? Well, let's be honest. Your parents are probably working for the Forsaken right now. So, Admiral Rogers here is another one of those warmongering types, of which there are several. We've pointed them out as we go along. She is pretty much only interested in killing Horde. She's one of those wipe them off the planet kind of types. For good and for ill. Yeah, she had parents before the war. Well, I'm just saying, Permeus, it's true. The Taylor is a lot more moderate in his viewpoints. And I like Taylor better anyways, because Taylor's awesome.
What's the situation? Show them what we're made of.
Notice we're heading to the south of Pandaria.
The flagship's last reported position was below. Can you see anything?
Fog. Nothing but dense fog. Wait. Land! Starboard! I see ships!
And they
Those
see
are
you.
Horde vessels. General quarters. Get our birds in the air. Clear the decks. Stations, people. Let's go to war.
Let's kill some Horde. Death to the Horde. Hi. So as you can see, the Horde have a whole base down here that they've constructed, ramshackle. Once again, notice the variance between the two. The Alliance find a Mogu temple and settle in. The Horde build, well, I really hesitate to call that series of huts a village, but, you know, they build that base. And I know what you're thinking. Well, hang on. How does the Horde have a whole base down here when all we had left was 6 people up top? Well, that's actually fairly obvious. The airship didn't come here alone. Or, I'm saying this wrong. If you'll remember, the whole thing that led to them discovering that White Pond, that Anduin was here, and that, oh my god, the Alliance had found a continent, was that their forces had already gotten here. The bulk of the Horde and Alliance forces had already approached Pandaria, had already landed on these shores, and already started settling themselves in. The Alliance up at the Mogu, and the Hordes down here, with their makeshift base. So, hopefully that answers that question a little bit. These are not, in other words, to make my point clear, the forces that came with us. No! Heal them, Mishka! Heal them!
Victory in battle is the only path to peace.
There's a whole Horde base down there! Where was our intel? Well, Death Knight, it's time to see what this upgraded ship is capable of. I will not let the Horde gain a foothold on these shores before we do. If you're looking to jump into the fray, I've got a spare gyrocopter for you at the end of the runway. An attack run's already programmed in. All you have to do is concentrate on shooting. Unleash hell!
Do your duty, soldier.
Over here, Xylom. Your gyrocopter's ready to go.
What in blazes is this?
Admiral, we're seeing a significant native presence here. Ornate structures.
Cut the chatter, people. Eyes on the target.
Once again, notice the Alliance also doesn't give a damn about the presence of a Pandaren
You heard
village.
the Admiral. Concentrate fire on the Horde base. Begin your attack runs.
And notice that gameplay-wise, this is fairly similar to the mission we just did on the gunship over on the Horde side. But yeah, again, I just want to point out that there are, neither the Horde nor the Alliance get away from this one clean, as both are just like, natives? Pfft, we're fighting the other side here, because they're the ones that actually matter. Now, one thing I want to point out is there's a significant goblin presence in Pandaria, and in Garrosh's forces in general. I've kind of already talked about the whys of why that is, especially since the goblins were kind of desperate to keep existing, and so they needed a, for lack of a better term, patron to do that. And there's the whole Black Fuse situation, since Black Fuse kind of, well, there we go. Led all of his particular company into Garrosh's forces. But I've always found it amusing that for someone...
Well done. No mercy.
Use your torpedo rockets on those ships. Confirm kill. Nice shooting.
Hey, Penguin. I've lost my train of thought now.
Pay him back. Hit him with everything you've got. That one's for Theramore.
Right. I forgot to do Theramore.
Negative, Admiral. No sign of Captain Taylor or his flagship.
Excuse me, Captain
That's
Taylor.
enough. All wings report back. Prepare for ground assault.
I was so distracted by losing the initial thing I wanted to do that I forgot to do Theramore. Okay. We'll do Theramore right after we link up with the Horde, timeline-wise. I apologize. No excuse. I screwed up.
This is the most powerful ship in the fleet.
A proper welcome for the Horde to this new land. Their town is burning, their men are scattered and broken. I need every available man on the ground now to finish them off. Grab one of the parachutes and get down there!
For the Alliance. Men, you've trained for this. You're among the elite. You are Skyfire men.
Meanwhile, I'm like, screw her speech, let's go! Gotta kill me some horde.
You got something that needs fixing?
God damn you, shoulder bloody. Let's do some damage. Okay, hang on tight too.
What do you need?
Quickly and quietly. That's how SI7 prefers to operate. That was the plan, at least. Rail Nightwind is already inside Gerashar Point, looking for signs of Anduin and Taylor. He's getting hot in there and needs support. Fight your way through these dogs and get the rail.
I got the right tool for the job.
Did you see the size of those war wagons? They're packing so many explosives, I can't tell if the Horde is here to take over the continent, or just blow it out of the sea. We need to neutralize those wagons before they leave Gerashar Point. Here, take me rocket flares. Fire them into the wagon. Watch the fireworks.
You got something that needs fixing?
There it is. To the Horde, or death to the Horde. Did I ever? I did! I think. Yep, I finally switched away from Frost. Thank God. I'm free, guys. Free. Even though I won't have the talent that really makes Unholy awesome until 100, hey, you know, whatever. Just... I'm debating if I want to defend the Alliance and the Horde here. I'm leaning towards no. It is my automatic inclination to look down on both forces for being warmongering idiots who are more interested in fighting each other than anything else at all. And, as I've mentioned before, have that casual, if justified, arrogant superiority problem. But as Meadfist pointed out, and he did have a valid point here, these are military idiots, personnel, who are primarily here in order to fight another military power, and ergo, are probably not the people most inclined to be using their brains right now. And I don't mean that as derogatory as it sounds. In the moment, in a firefight, using your head can get you killed, can get your people killed. Because you pause to think, and you're no longer acting, and bad stuff can happen. This is actually a true thing. So I think in the interest of total fairness, I will acknowledge that both the Horde and the Alliance are simply being militaries here. Now, their leaders get absolutely no slack for this. We've got Varian on one side, who at this point in time is getting better, and Garrosh, who at this time is getting worse. This is right after the point at which Garrosh decided to really... you're doing great, Psychotic. To really push his I'm an evil bastard thing. There was a book, actually, that happened between Cataclysm and Pandaria. Yes, Spirit of Memory. I talked about it earlier. It's fairly self-evident when you think about it. And if you go and watch that initial video. Hey, Varian, I will defend because he actually decided to grow as a character. Well, I'm saying that wrong. Varian got better. Garrosh was still... I will defend the writing of Garrosh to the End of the Earth. It is a well-written character. However, he never got better. In fact, he actively got worse. Hey, Darkrai. Anyways, so in between the end of Cataclysm with Deathwing's defeat and this, it's funny, you'd think, Deathwing's defeated, we can all celebrate. What actually happened is the war effort actually got kicked into overdrive, because now they don't have to worry about continuing to survive against, anything simple like a Cataclysm. Now we can focus, no, Darkrai, the War Crimes novel does not happen until after Pandaria, before Warlords. Tides of War, I believe, is the name of the book. Oh, by the way, yes, I have read the Illidan book. Yes, I will be commenting on it. No, I'll not be commenting on it now. Make that point clear. Anyways. So Garrosh and the Alliance, let's make this clear, both sides, now that the imminent threat of total destruction was removed, decided to just kind of charge full tilt into each other with the intent of wiping out the other side. They were able to really focus on the war effort. Yeah. Best possible plan, right? So, among the many things that happened there, that was actually when Garrosh went out of his way to offer amnesty to the Dark Horde. For those of you who don't remember, and I wouldn't blame you if you don't, the Dark Horde are the renegade horde who followed Rend Blackhand, who was actually loyal to Nefarian, and therefore the Black Dragonflight, during Vanilla WoW. The Dark Horde are bad guys. I'm just going to say that as bluntly as I can. They're fanatics, and they're evil and stupid. Malkarok, who I mentioned earlier, is a member of the Dark Horde. Was. Basically, the way Garrosh said it was, if you join me, you're forgiven of all crimes. All you have to do is be loyal to me forever. And, so... a fairly large number of the former members of the Dark Horde decided to sign up with Garrosh's Horde, which I will forevermore be referring to, as per my idiom, as the Disgusting Horde. The Disgusting Horde also had one other huge influx of troops, because he got kind of a fangirl. In the form of Zaela, the war chief of the Dragonmaw clan. Because of the fact that they rescued the Dragonmaw clan from the Fel Horde, or from the Fel Orc, because of the fact that they helped rejuvenate the Dragonmaw clan from being, well, basically a tribe to an actual military power, a lot of the Dragonmaw clan, by which I mean, to my knowledge, all of the Dragonmaw clan, became fierce advocates and loyalists of the Disgusting Horde. Yeah. So Garrosh got a lot of credit for things that he didn't really do, and as a result, there are quite a few groups of people who ended up solely loyal to him, including the aforementioned two groups I just talked about.
At ease, soldier.
I like that, by the way, Bregman. Ah, great work! If you ever decide to give up your life of adventure, the SI-7 could use more talent like you.
Back to your duties.
With those wagons out of commission, we can get our attention to the Commander.
Goodbye.
I've scouted the area and found no leads on the Prince or Admiral Taylor. We need to neutralize this base quickly and continue our search elsewhere. Operations here are being led by a Orc Warlock. Hang on a second. Thirsty dog needed to go out. I'll have to get up again to let her in a moment. Operations here are being led by an Orc Warlock, Gatrul. He's barricaded the dock and is trying to escape through a demonic circle. Put that flare gun to work and blow those barricades. I'll cover your back when we get to Gatrul.
I'm counting on you.
Let's do it! Bring it! It was disgustingly terrible, Ionic, but we'll talk about that in a minute. No, I do not, Psychotic. I don't like dogs that much.
Our sweat and your blood. This land will be ours.
A warlock. He couldn't have ported far. There must be another base. Keep your eyes open.
We'll catch up with him again, I'm sure of it.
Goodbye.
Nightwind, report. What's going on down there?
No sign of the flagship. No sign of Admiral Taylor or Prince Anduin.
Horde troops are swimming towards your position. Open fire at once.
Admiral, I think they mean to surrender. They're not armed. They're just trying not to drown.
You don't think they'll hesitate to strangle you with their bare hands? Gun them down!
That's not right. This is a massacre. They were unarmed. I don't feel well. Maybe they deserve to die.
Hey, Terran.
You beasts! What sort of madness is this?
Men, stand down! This is one of the natives.
Notice the Alliance also lowers the weapons. Immediately. I hate chihuahuas.
We are from the Alliance and mean you no harm. Tell me, what was that shadow you drew out of me?
This is not the place to explain. In short, your own doubts have been made manifest as a consequence of your actions.
You don't understand. We're fighting a war here.
Oh, I understand perfectly. I have eyes. But Pandaria is not like whatever land you came from. It lives and breathes. You should be careful what kind of energy you bring here. Now put those weapons away.
No, we need to keep massacring orcs. We must kill them all.
Keep your mind on the mission.
North of this base is a cherry blossom orchard and a village tucked away behind it. We'll need to quarter there and tend to our wounded while we plan our next move. Head to that village and make contact with the native leader. Agent Mishka and I will rendezvous with you there. Be courteous, Xylom. I am authorizing you to represent the entire Alliance here. I'm banking that seeing a powerful Alliance hero like you would make a favorable impression.
Back to your duties.
This whole place is going up in flames, and the Skyfire is parting more of those shadows crawling up out of the ground. We need to get our people out of here. Clear a path through the base on your way north and head for the town. I will rendezvous with you there.
I'm counting on you.
I never have either, Psychotic. Give it a hell, Forest Asylum. Whatever they are. Yeah, I know, right, Rasker? It's an interesting counterbalance. He's like, oh, okay, I've got this. And his boss is like, kill them all! Kill them all! Yes, Admiral Rogers has a little bit of a grudge against the Horde. But, I mean, who can blame her, right? I mean, clearly it is logical to assume that all Horde, and therefore all races that are associated with the Horde, are pure evil because of the fact that some members of the Horde were evil. I mean, that makes perfect sense when you think about it. It is logical. After all, any race that would be willing to conspire against their own leader in order to get them killed and prolong a war between the Klingons and the humans, how could you ever trust such a race? Ah. Hey, Naga Priest. I bring up the Star Trek VI reference because it's always fascinated me that I can't think of her name. The Vulcan. I can't think of her name. The Vulcan who played oh my god, the Vulcan from Star Trek VI that was not Spock. I can't believe I can't think of her name. Anyways, her entire reasoning was extremely logical and made a perfect amount of sense because the only possible way... Valeris, thank you. The only possible way that... I mean, how will you ever trust a people who, as she herself puts, are willing to conspire against their own people? They planned this whole thing, right? No, Deutsch. No, not Christy Alley. Valeris was correct. Anyways, my reason for bringing this up with regards to here is the main flaw in that argument, the flaw in that logic, is it is couched in a prejudice. The only way that reasoning works is if you presume every single Klingon functions the same way as this small group of Klingons, you know? Pandarians. Podden Village. Another stranger comes to our village. A death knight by the look of it. I'm not sure why I know what that is, but enter, but do not draw your weapons against us, as the Horde did. Uh-oh. Ignore this person. I'm sure that whoever it is, this Black Prince, isn't relevant. Oh, I know, Meter Madeira. Mayor Kong, we must act quickly. Rally the city guards, at least. Just a moment, Teg. We have a visitor.
Tell me of your travels.
When the mist fell, we knew it would be only a matter of time before visitors arrived. We could not have predicted it would be like this.
Next one is on me.
We are outnumbered, but not outwitted. Do not... If it is war you mean to bring to our shores, the very land itself will respond to your passions and your violence. I do not know what the ultimate consequences will be. Nobody does.
Alright, I actually need to be right back real quick. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back. Fear not. Thirsty dog has been returned to us. To them, I should say.
Hello.
These orc things ransacked my brewery and made off with my family's finest barrels of cider. I know there is a war out there, but I am not a brewer who will stand idly by while his prized vintage is chugged by undeserving lips. The Horde will likely put up some resistance. Why don't you put that weapon there to good use? Help me recover my cider.
There is no hurry.
What do you think, guys? Should we get a cider back?
Welcome.
How did my village become a battlefield? To the west, your Horde enemies cut down our precious orchard. Without apple trees, we will have no harvest, no food, no livelihood. If you are truly different than this Horde, show us. Help us protect our grove by killing those who defile the land.
May the mists protect you.
Hey, Mishka.
Greetings.
We may have won the first battle, but a critical task still remains. Dozens of Skyfire pilots were shot down during the initial aerial battle. Without medical aid, their condition will deteriorate over time until they finally perish. We are their only hope for survival. Go into the orchard, revive as many pilots as you can find. We will leave no one behind.
Is anyone in need of medical
Do
aid?
I think it will, Penguin? I have no idea. 90s and yes, Flex Fiend. I personally think Deep Space Nine is the best of the Star Trek shows, followed very, very, very closely by TNG, and then, you know, everything else. So, good stuff. Definitely worth looking into, IMO. I'm alive? That's more I can say for those Horde up at Garashar Point. We killed them good. Yes, Permeus. Thanks for saving me. It's tough up there. Die, Horde scum! Taitu is right. Star Trek V is the best Star Trek ever made. Well, that's not true. There's Threshold, which I definitely recommend. And then there's also Nemesis, which is the best Star Trek ever made. Oh, that's the stuff. Our cider is prized throughout the Jade Forest. I hope I can carry them all. Pandaria has not seen a full-scale war since the mists closed in. The Shadow Pawn usually handle any trouble that crop up on the continent. Well, we do get to beat the crap out of him, Ionic, in a really well-done boss battle, I might add. Oh yes, Code of Honor is amazing. Just Oscar material. You know what? I say this without a trace of lying. I personally think Code of Honor is Oscar material. Props to anyone who figures out what I mean by that. Oof. I do not know what to make of your kind. Why have you brought your war to our shores? Why do you fight this horde? Mayor Kang is so worried. He called the Shadow Pawn to deal with your arrival. I still cannot believe Lord Terranzu is here. No, my overall joke was the fact that the Oscars are such a joke, and stupid, and irrelevant, and dumb, and I hate them, that I absolutely do think that Code of Honor and them deserve to be in the same category. That was the joke I was going with. We do not wish to enter your conflict, but I fear that when war is on the horizon, peace is not a choice. Ah, such troubling thoughts. Our last emperor advised us not to live in the shadow of fear. Do you see now why we love to drink and celebrate? I admit I am hideously biased towards Pandaria, and Pandarians in general, because my own life philosophy tends to be similar to theirs. Not identical, of course, but same general direction. Slow down, life is to be savored, you know, tolerance, acceptance, goodness. What the?
Greetings.
I see that you're too late. that you two have been busy. Thank you for recovering our kegs of ale.
Level 90. Ding! Hang
I
on.
hope to see you again
Hang on.
soon.
Should we get one with the airship? Or should we get one with the gorgeous landscape? Which do you think?
Tell me of your travels.
We have more than just our cellars to worry about. Kauku, our beloved Mushan, has gone crazy. Just look at him. Ignore the corpse over there. I've tried cajoling and pleading and yelling and soothing, but nothing has worked. I'm afraid he is no longer of his own mind. There's only one way to save him and our brewery. Be swift and sure, so that he does not feel a thing.
Farewell.
Hey, Gnarlix. Welcome back. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Ionic. That's a good point, Jenkies. We'll probably ding again in Pandaria. And I gotta say, I'm not usually one to gush over graphics, but God, Pandaria is gorgeous. Look at this place. I love this style of terrain in general. The tall cliffs and the broken, I don't even know what to call this. And the wonderful spring flowers and trees and just I don't even know how to vocalize it. I'm not good at descriptors. But it's amazing. Yes, right there. I like that. I want to get as much of the airship as possible. You know what? Hang on. There we go. I agree, Gnarlix. Music design, too. I've often said one of the things Blizzard is best at is feeling epic, regardless of some of the quality of their other things. They can make something that's relatively badly written and kind of poorly presented feel extremely epic. I'm suddenly reminded of a Fig Newton commercial in response to your comment, Azure. A cookie is just a cookie, but beer is liquid bread.
How can I help you?
Good work, Xylom. These soldiers will live and fight another day because of your efforts.
Hello.
Goodbye.
Hello.
You did well to help the brewers and bring this news to me. From what you have told me, it sounds as if Kauku was possessed by some dark energy. Could it be? No, that's impossible.
Jade Serpent.
Our orchard is one of our village's greatest treasures. For saving our harvest, we are truly grateful.
May the mists protect you. Tell me of your travels.
I do not trust this horde. They wield foul magic, and their intentions are clearly malevolent. We can no longer stand their presence in the Twin Spire Keep. So close to Powden, I beg you, visitor, thin their numbers before they do something awful to this village.
Jade Serpent, guide you.
Although we have just met, we have a common enemy, this group called the Horde. Several days ago, their leader made us a trade offer. When we refused, his servants abducted several of our cubs as bargaining chips. We have called in the Shadow Pond to help, but they are in the Kunlai, a journey of several days. Can you come to our aid?
Next one is on me.
Reporting in?
The Horde have made our jobs easier for us. Their infighting and segregation have split their camps in two. Orcs in the west, undead in the east. The orcs obey their commander, Dagon, while the undead follow Belandra Fellstorm, some powerful warlock. Hopefully their internal squabbles will be enough of a distraction. You'll be able to sneak in there and kill both of them. Sully's already infiltrated the ruins. Find him inside when you're done.
Back to your duties.
Sully scouted the Horde establishment to the north, and he reports seeing a large pile of explosives along with a small force of demolishers. That's not to mention the demons and their warlocks have summoned. Luckily, we came prepared. We've got just the support. We've got the air support from the Skyfire. We just need to show our pilots where to strike. He hands you a smoke flare and gives you a knowing nod.
Goodbye.
Let's do this, guys. For the Alliance! What did I say earlier? The Allurance? Is that what I called it? Or the Allurdance? The Allurdance, there we go. For the Allurdance. Slow down. Life leveling is to be savored. I'll say this, if they want to do pristine thing, I'm totally down with that, as long as it's optional. That is literally my only requirement. You keep it optional, we're all good. You make it mandatory, well, you got a problem. Interesting how the disgusting horde here is using so many warlocks.
Target acquired. Light it up.
Yeah, like I said, Psychotic, as long as it's optional, I'm down. In fact, I would actually, and I've talked about this before, I would actually like a more, a swifter leveling method as an option, not as the default. So I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, this is horrible. I can't believe the Horde would enslave children. For those of you not aware, the Alliance did the same thing. They did it a little more insidiously than obviously, but they still did it. Seriously, Pandaria is basically both sides are wrong, the expansion. Part of why I liked it so much. I have gotten that question a lot, Spirit of Memory, but it's okay. I will play it someday. When all the DLCs for Fallout 4 are out and done, when there's no more expansions, no more content, I'll play all of them. But I will not actually play it individually now. I will not look at Fallout 4 again until it is completed. I know, right, Malaeus? Let's just leave him roaming around up there. It's so good. It's okay. He's mad at the Horde right now, so for the moment, he's not an enemy.
We read you. Coming in hot. We read you. Coming in hot.
Of course, Jenkies.
We read you. Coming in hot.
By which I mean, no. Can't. I've soloed all the previous raids, though. Thank you, Taitu. I appreciate your wonderful candor in your, particularly uniquely acerbic nature. Oh, come on. I did hear from a very venerable source that that's the truth, Spirit of Memory. There are certain fights that are pretty rough, even with 2, Psychotic. I have done all of them with 2. I recorded all of them with 2. Then my hard drive crashed. So I get to do all that again. What if Janine's on? Nope. Charlie's on, but that's it. Wait a minute. Janine is on. So, okay, sorry. I wanted to discuss something here. I like how there's literally an orc and a Forsaken arguing here. So you notice that this is the Forsaken, who are generally not liked amongst the Garoshian Horde, the disgusting Horde. And the other forces they have down here are Warlock-based, also things that are absolutely hated in Garrosh's Horde. In fact, remember, he actually gave you free writ to just flat-out execute a Warlock, basically because he was a Warlock, and for no other reason. I mean, granted, it's not like you need much more of a reason, but the fact remains. I mention this because I've long had a theory that...
Roger that. Give him the business.
I've long had the theory that these Horde forces that were sent down here were basically the dregs of the disgusting Horde. And they were pretty much left here to die, or to fail, or because they just wanted to get them away from the main forces, you know, something like that. I don't have a huge amount of evidence to support that, other than the obvious fact that we've got Blighted, Forsaken Doom, and Orc Warlocks. But... yes, basically, Gnarlex. That is just a theory of mine. Carrier has arrived, yes!
Burn it to the ground.
Also, in case you guys thought I was kidding, this is clearly a Mogu structure, just like the other one was. Not only because it obviously fits their architectural style. There we go. But you can actually see Mogu statues all over the place, so, you know. You're right, Kay. I agree. We should go execute every single orc in the world because some of them are evil. Totally with you, Kay. I might be being sarcastic right now. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, you'll never convince me of that side of that argument. Hey, Myron. Really? I do not fear you, Walken. You would be wise to fear me, Demon Hunter, and she's dead. Actually, that's a lore point, Gnarlex. And I mean, hell, you basically just explained it by your own sentence. All orcs must die. By that logic, all humans must die. By that logic, all Forsaken must die. By that logic, all dwarves must die. By that logic. Should I keep going?
What do you need?
Dozens of pilots were shot down further to the north, including our own agents. We've got to help all of them, but first we got to deal with the Horde. One heck of a bloody mess you made down there, kid. Good work.
You got something to report?
I have seen the wee ones too. Just a few out on my way here.
Lion scum! Burn!
You've done good, lad. Those cubs might have some nasty nightmares, but they'll grow up someday, thanks to you.
That's some fancy killing that night. With those two gone. Taking care of all that's left of the big fella behind me. What in the world? My lads are up in the sky bringing the heat, don't they? Alright, lad. We've had enough jabs at this warlock army. Time to cut off the head. Get Trolls up there in that big old temple. Give him a good what for, and the Horde will have lost its last stake in Pandaria. Yep, the Horde will never be back to Pandaria. Ever. Hello, Magister. Yes, Spirit, but only for the individual stories, since only one of them actually connects to the Imperium in an obvious and overt manner. The other two do not. They are part of it, of course. All stories of mine are part of it. But not openly and overtly. What the...
Burn, Alliance scum! Burn!
This land will be your grave.
Broken
There's something
cutscene.
about this land you don't understand.
Probably psychotic. So that was the player who just went in front of me. I should message Pax. Except he's not on. Pax, there he is. I don't understand that question, Food Dogs. What do you mean? How exactly do you think it would be derailed? Is he around, Sonashi? Hello, Jango Fett. Oh, hey, there's a book here. Day 12. Honorable War Chief. I have assumed command after the fleet after crew.
Alliance hero. Let's see how you fight without a flying warship to cover your back.
Okay. Awesomeness mixed with amazingness. Ah, meteors.
There's something about this land you don't understand.
Have fun, Azura. By the way, these meteors
Burn, Alliance scum! Burn!
are another excellent example of what I was talking about earlier.
Land will be your grave.
Yeah, this right here, great example of the telegraph attacks right there.
King's mercy. What happened here? What was that thing?
Your foe was overwhelmed by a dark energy we call the Sha. It thrives on negative emotions, such as doubt. It has been many years since I have seen it manifest so dramatically.
I am not surprised. The Horde are monsters. We are here on a peaceful rescue mission. Will you help us?
I have seen your Sky Fortress. Your people have an interesting notion of peace.
Left to their own devices, the Horde will overwhelm your land. Will you not help us fight them?
We are not afraid to fight. Our warriors, while few in number, are extremely skilled. But we will not participate in this genocidal bloodbath of yours. Your conflict will have immense consequences here. Do not bring your war to these shores.
Food Dogs, that would be interesting, if not for the fact that it's limited choice. In other words, in the example you give, the only choices available would be left or right. There would be no third option, or fifth option, or 30th option.
At ease, soldier.
Shaw. Fighting the Horde on a foreign shore is hard enough. Shaw energy, huh?
Tread carefully, Xylom. There's a hidden darkness to this continent. We'll stay behind to mop up the rest of the Horde, but you need to continue with the main mission. The rescue of Captain Taylor and the retrieval of Prince Anduin. Our aerial scouts think they've found wreckage of the flagship near Podon Village. Go there and report to Admiral Rogers for your instructions. You're welcome to use my gyrocopter.
I'm counting on you.
Oh my god, a warlock just buffed me! I feel the power moving through me! Okay, I'm okay. I want to read his log, but I'm actually going to wait on that. I know that sounds weird. But it'll become obvious in a moment, because I screwed up. As I've already indicated, I totally messed up. So, before we continue to the next arc of the plot, we're going to rewind time a little bit. So I mentioned how there was this gentleman named Garrosh, who was like, you know what, I like being really, really evil. And everyone else is like, well, we don't really like being evil. And there was a lot of politics going along, and basically no one was willing to pledge loyalty to Garrosh as war chief. They were simply afraid of the power he led. This is also about when he started really coming into power amongst the orcs, especially of Orgrimmar. No, it does not at all, Green. Where am I? So meanwhile, in the past, well, so I'm trying to think of how to summarize Tides of War, because there's a lot of little nuances, but it boils down to the fact that Garrosh's Horde and the Horde started really separating 100% in Tides of War, prior to Pandaria. And, yep. And, yeah, just a second.
Hello. Tread lightly.
Yes, that's Jim Cummings. We haven't actually met him yet. Forgive me. Garrosh's Horde staged a lengthy, violent effort against Theramore. Now, the Alliance, and I really don't want to sound like I'm taking sides, because this was just a messed up situation all around, but the Alliance provoked a Horde military response at Theramore, because the Alliance had blockaded Orgrimmar and that entire shoreline and most of their eastern seaboard. And that blockade was really choking the Horde a lot. And their ability to function, their ability to operate militarily, especially between the two continents. It was a big issue. So Theramore became kind of a focus point. So the Alliance was doing this on purpose. They were trying to draw the Horde into a combat in Theramore where they believed they could push back the Horde and deal a crippling military blow. And they were right. One catch, though. See, Garrosh isn't a good tactician or a good leader or good anything other than a warrior. Just, punch people with his fist kind of a guy. But he did, he is good at one thing other than being a warrior, and that's at coming up with strategies that most people wouldn't, because they're either too dumb or too blunt for people to really counteract. In other words, so Garrosh committed more and more and more forces to the Theramore offensive, because doing so would force the Theramore forces to commit more and more and more forces to the Theramore front lines. I'll discuss a little more about that in a minute.
White Tiger watch over you.
Hey, War Wager. Yeah, I did an exploration on it yesterday. Rather enjoyed it.
The unthinkable has happened. Our siege on Theramore has failed. You're the contingency plan. Your mission is to infiltrate Theramore Isle, burn their ships, butcher their flight master,
sabotage their war machines, and rescue our spy. Throw them into chaos while we regroup. The eyes of Hellscream are upon you.
So, what's happening right about now, historically speaking, is that we have failed in our first assault, and there's been all sorts of horrible stuff that's happened, including, as he mentioned, the capture of one of our spies. The Horde is still capable of attacking, is still in the middle of attacking Theramore. They were still attempting to besiege the city, as you can see here, by the fact that we actually have a, not quite a beachhead, but, you know, I mean, we've got a ship in their harbor, for God's sakes. So we're gonna go sow some chaos here as an elite force on the front lines. Theramore is actually probably one of the more defensible fortifications on Kalimdor, right up there with Orgrimmar itself, actually. It would be very, very, very difficult to properly besiege this place. If this was a Warcraft 3 map, this place would be insane to try and bring down. This would be one of the hardest missions they had. Yeah, I'm serious. This place, yeah. It's well defended, well positioned. It has lots of different things going for it. Yeah. So, I'm losing my train of thought because Pax is upset at me. What we are doing here is the kind of thinking that Garrosh wouldn't think of, aka sending in a small elite squad to try and deal with things that the armies have been failing at doing. I just realized that. Jeez, on that. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Did I miss one? I did. Whoops, whoops. So let's talk about. I just realized what I had a thing on. I'm trying really hard not to talk about World War I. I will never stop talking about World War I if I start getting on that topic. So I've talked about the launch events of all the expansions, and I kind of wanted to talk about this first, and then I got super distracted by the hard drive crash. I apologize again. Here's how this boils down. BC's launch, I talked about that, right? You know, the demonic invasion, holding the line, and all that fun stuff. It was pretty fun. It wasn't super special, and in hindsight, it was actually kind of bland. But at the time, it was fun. It was again about what old WoW was about more than new WoW was about. A lot less story, a lot more people interacting with each other, right? Wrath's launch event, of course, was absolutely freaking amazing, as we've discussed many times, with the joining the Scourge, the zombie invasion, the fact that the Scourge were invading all the different zones and you could get all this stuff from it. It was just really, 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 really cool. Lots of awesome, well-done stuff there. Keta's launch event was pretty good, not to the scale of the zombie invasion, not to the scale of the Scourge invasion, but still pretty good. You know, there was a lot of quests, again, more of a story-focused, more of a plot-focused. You had content regarding Churgal, you had content regarding the a lot of the different threads that were starting up between the Night Elves and between the Dwarves and between the Orcs. And of course, there was the Twilight's Hammer who were coming to prominence, you know, all sorts of fun stuff like that. Then we came to Pandaria. Now, I have to admit, by the time Pandaria came around, I had just this sort of joy for launch events. It's something that I came to look forward to. You know, something I was just like, yeah, I can't wait to see the launch event, to see the acclamation patch for the new expansion. It's this big deal, and I was really looking forward to it. And I even got Pax to resub just for the launch event. And he wasn't the only one. You know, lots of people would resub specifically because they were doing a launch event. So Pandaria's launch event was the worst launch event WoW's ever had, and probably the worst expansion launch event I've ever seen, personally. It's literally the two scenarios that I am going through for you right now, the Horde one and the Alliance one, and they are different, so at least some credits there. But it's literally just these two scenarios, and that's it. This was the launch event. For those of you who don't know what a scenario is basically a miniature version of an instance that I wish they would do more of. Pandaria introduced scenarios, and then they were immediately abandoned after Pandaria. I'll explain more why I like scenarios later when we start going through all the rest of them. But to summarize, they're 3-man instead of 5. I personally think 3-man is the minimal optimal group, and it's a lot easier for me to get 2 of my friends on at the same time than 4, or than 9, or than 24. So I like that, and most of the scenarios were either fun, heavily story-focused, or both. Not all of them, of course. Hell, you even could get good gear from these too, so it was useful in like every way.
No loitering, whatever that means.
So there go their Griffin ships. Death to Theramore! They also added a heroic version to scenarios which were more challenging, and of course, added pretty nice gear rewards. Really, Buttmonk, because I haven't heard anything about scenarios in Legion. I mean, dungeons, yeah. Higher dungeon focus, but nothing about scenarios. There's also some fun achievements to do in the scenarios. I actually have all of these 100%, which is one of the few things I have 100% of. Where are you? There you are. That's true. Now, you needed tanks and healers for heroic scenarios. Because, duh. But you didn't need them for regular scenarios. We may have encountered a bug, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see what we can do with this. Don't spoil it for me, War Wager. I hope to actually go through the rest of that on the stream. Oh, by the way, could somebody type... hang on, I'm going to throw this up really quick. There. For those of you who haven't seen that yet, do me a favor and do that, please. So, now, the scenarios in Pandaria, about half of them were heavily story-focused. Mostly the ones they added in patches. All the 5.1 ones and the 5.2 ones, those were very, 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 very heavily story-focused. The only complaint I had at all with the Throne of Thunder scenarios is the fact that they were mandatory solo. You literally could not do them in a group, which I thought kind of sucked. They were still very well done and very enjoyable. The fact that I couldn't play them with a friend just was like, eh. Shrug. Anyways, so as a quick thing for anybody who haven't actually seen what's going on with the second YouTube channel yet, I need 100 subs on that new channel in order to be able to set it up as an actual proper channel. So if you could do me a favor, please, and sub to that channel, that would be awesome. Please and thank you. Hey look, it's Calicos. I can even attack him. Yes, by the way, Calicos is there with Jaina and Ronan. Remember, two of... Well, this sucks. I gotta think about this. I wasn't expecting this scenario to bug out. I have literally never seen this bug happen. I'm not even sure how it happened. I wasn't prepared for bugginess, so I wasn't paying attention. Whoops. But yeah, it appears we are fully bugged out. I appreciate the thought, Kamek. Right. So, yeah, the birds are literally not there. Bird, I should say. just a second. I'm going to see if there's a fix for this that doesn't involve starting it over. Yeah, okay, no, there's no fix for it. We gotta do the initial part again. I can Schmidolf, it just means I have to do the initial bit again.
Slow down. Enough of that.
The unthinkable has happened.
I didn't belittle your argument, I disagreed with it. There's a difference, okay? That was belittling what I just did. Halfway, woo! So let's do this again. We're gonna try to be a little quicker this time. So there are a lot of people who compare Garrosh to Hitler, and I hate to do that, but it's pretty accurate. Let's go ahead and add one additional way. Yeah, no kidding, Ionic. One additional way in which Garrosh is like Hitler. Now, I know this is an unpopular opinion, and I may get some flack from historian buffs in the chat for this opinion, but here it goes. Hitler was not a good tactician, in my opinion, nor a good strategist, nor a good military, tactically minded person at all. In my opinion, he was a terrible leader, tactically, militarily, etc., in every way. And the only reason he succeeded was either because of luck, because he had actually good leaders under him, actual good tacticians, I should say, under him, or because basically he was doing, he held all the cards. I mean, it doesn't require good tactics to win when you are cheating, basically. And Nazi Germany, I'm sorry, had a lot of military advantages, at least at the early part of the war. So, I also compare him, again, to Garrosh. Garrosh has had many successes. I've actually talked about these many times. You'd be surprised how much flack I get for saying that, mate. For example, he's well known for all his incredible victories in Northrend. Yet, as we've discussed, and as we were talking about all the way through Wrath, none of those victories were because of Garrosh. Literally none of them. He sent us by ourselves. Well, that's not true. He sent us and one other noob against an entire Scourge army. And the only reason we survived that is because Saurfang came to bail us out, and did so clandestinely, so that Garrosh was left the impression that that was his successful tactic, that he won that encounter, that he made the right call, when in fact he completely didn't. Someone had to clean up his mess for him. How many quests did we do throughout Northrend, which was literally us cleaning up the bad strategy and bad tactics of Garrosh, most especially when we actually got to Icecrown, when his tactics had gotten so stupid that it was starting to defy belief. Never mind the fact that he kept getting credit for all these wonderful things that he was doing in order to uplift Orc society. And a little bit of credit where credit is due there, because he did push for, he did want to push for Orc, actually having a decent lifestyle, whereas before they didn't. But again, Garrosh doesn't actually get credit for that. Thrall does. And when I say Thrall gets credit, I mean Thrall gets negative credit for allowing that situation to exist to begin with his own people. We've talked about this, right? So far, listing all of the successes and accomplishments of Garrosh, we're up to a grand total of none. Then he starts taking the war in tilt, full tilt against the Alliance. And he keeps doing, really blunt, grandiose strategies, like we're doing right here, like this very mission that we're engaged in, which is basically,
it's my way or the highway, pal.
I want my military to basically deliberately fight what is effectively a losing battle, so that more of the enemy military is committed to the fight. Now, okay, that is a valid tactic. I don't want to sound like it isn't, but that's the level of tactical acumen this guy has. I'm going to deliberately lose in order to try and make sure that I beat the enemy more, because I'm holding all the cards. And I gotta kill the griffins first this time and not screw up. There we go. We're good. Wow, Kemek. That's terrible. I'll talk a little bit more about his wonderful strategy in just a minute, because you'll see. You're literally going to see his strategy in action. And by his, I am giving him too much credit here. I'm literally giving him too much credit, because this is actually a strategy engineered by another individual that Garrosh took credit for. So, once again, we've got a victory he doesn't deserve. Brigwin! Brigwin! Javan asked you a question. By the way, fun fact, of all the various achievements for scenarios, this particular one took me the longest to get. Basically, the way to get this achievement is to never get hit by this thing, ever. To never take damage from it. I know what you're thinking. Well, how is that hard? I'm a warrior, primarily. That's a melee character. That tank has a melee attack. So do I need to... I mean, I could keep explaining it if I need to. Does Garrosh have any redeeming factors? That's an interesting question. I often defend Garrosh as a well-written character. Yeah, that achievement right there. So I think he is well-written. I think he is an enjoyable villain. But do I think he has any redeeming factors as a individual, as a character? No. I think he is an unrepentant bastard. I know that because he was given a chance of repentance, and his statement was basically, and I quote, "I wish I had committed more atrocities." Seriously. That's actually a thing. This is not a joke. Oh no, look at all these Theramore footmen. What will I do? Barrage! Barrage! Hunters are awesome. So you see that guy right there? That's Thalen's Songreaver. He has a little bit more of a role in a few other things, but yes, he actually does use that word, okay. That is a direct quote.
Oh, it's about time. Will you free me, or did you have other ideas?
Keep it in your pants, you bastard. So this guy is the one who had the big idea here. Let me explain really quick. After we defeated Malygos, remember that's another thing we did that Garrosh did not do, a Horde force went through... I'm really summarizing here, but basically the Horde got a hold of one of the Nexus arcane focus points that was in the Nexus, that was in the Blue Dragonflight's area, right? So the Horde got a hold of that, shipped it down here, and they had some of their Blood Elves, including Mr. Songweaver's group here, work over this thing and turn it into something you may recognize. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you remember Outland? I know it's been a while since we went through Outland, but I'm sure some of you remember, say, Firewing Point, and, of course, the Cenarian Thicket. Or how about over here with the Kirinvar Village? What do all three of these things have in common? Monobombs. Remember how I discussed in excruciating detail just how screwed up and wrong and terrible monobombs were? Those were normal monobombs. Garrosh's big plan was to take a Nexus crystal thing, the focusing iris, from the actual Nexus all the way up north, from the Blue Dragon, so an extremely powerful locus of magical energy, which could be used to power a city, which could be used to engineer new technologies and new magic, which could do 1,000 other things, even militarily speaking, and turned it into a freaking monobomb of epic proportions. When I say that, I mean this thing actually would make a real-life nuclear weapon seem tame by comparison. This thing it was incredibly devastating. And this whole plan to get all these troops committed to Theramore was just so that the impact of him dropping this bomb on their face would be as big as possible. Jaina barely survived. She was literally dragged out by Ronin, who died in the process. That actually becomes a plot point later in Pandaria. Ronin dies here at Theramore. Calicos almost dies here at Theramore. So why don't I go ahead and show you the incident? Right. I need to go get the keys.
The captain of the guard upstairs, Hedrick Evenkane, should possess a key. Please, make haste. We do not have all night, you know.
Yeah, similar to the Zarbamba, I think, is about the equivalent of what's about to be dropped on this city. Hello, Reach. It's pretty messed up. I will say this, a lot of players tend to refer to the bombing of Theramore as the worst thing Garrosh has ever done. I don't agree with that, personally. However, the only reason I don't agree with that is because Garrosh has done even worse than this in his life, because he's a terrible person. He will do worse than this in Pandaria, in my opinion, of course. Of course, when we get down to atrocities, it kind of just becomes a matter of scale after a certain point, doesn't it? But a lot of Alliance players tend to view this as the one moment at which the Horde crossed the line. Players view this, not characters. And so the whole Horde versus Alliance thing in players, not in character, kind of became worse after this incident. And of course, tons and tons and tons of people complained, whined, and moaned about the fact that the Blizzard devs would never do this to a Horde city. Yeah, roll my eyes. Ah!
My thanks. Shall we make our way off this miserable little island? The failed siege was merely a feint, of course. You didn't realize? Even now, an airship draws near. Its arcane payload will flatten Theramore Isle, and everyone's still standing upon it. There we go. Should you pass through Silvermoon City, come and say hello, Aldiel Shala.
Now, unfortunately, this cutscene will not actually show the full extent of how brutal this really is. Because it's an MMO and it's being rendered in engine and, yeah.
We're gonna turn this place into a sinkhole!
Yeah, that was amusing timing, by the way. I'll read the donation in just a second. We're almost done with this one. Oh, there we go. We're right at the beginning, Lizzo. Alright, hang on. I gotta... Okay. Thank you for the donation, Ionic. I appreciate it. Dealer's choice, so I guess I'll go ahead and put that towards the normal suit. It must continue to be ahead. Actually, you know what? I take that back. No. I take it back. New plan. I'll put it towards the Crayola suit. The Skittles suit. In honor of Reach. There we go. Yeah, they don't...
What do you need?
Really have the ability to show it off proper.
Until next time.
Unfortunately. Yes, the Reach suit. Maybe we'll get a better version of it this time.
We're gonna turn this place into a sinkhole!
As an amusing anecdote, several of these goblins died dropping this bomb because of the severity of the impact. Yeah, it looks like it's just not showing the graphic properly. So, a little bit of a reality check on what just happened here. So, bomb went off. Ronan basically shoved Jaina through a portal, getting her out more or less at the last second, at the cost of his own life. Ronan dies. A lot of other people die. Jaina was still affected by some of the backlash of the ridiculous amount of magic that was unleashed. Because remember, this is a mana bomb. It's basically unleashing pure concentrated magic into destructive force without focus or, well, anything really. It's just... it's basically like opening up a window to the sun for a little bit on a single spot. Now, the so Jaina Proudmoore, Miss Proudmoore, was infused with tons of this magic and kind of lost it a bit. We'll discuss a little more of the significance of that as soon as we get to it, but yeah.
It's a ship. An alliance ship. Merely a transport Grood, not a warship. I don't care. I'm killing everything on board. Move it, grunts!
I'll never ignore you, Magister. And no, Lorthamar did not approve. He, in fact, specifically did not know. That's called out in the book. There are Blood Elves who were involved and who, in fact, planned this, but Silvermoon as a power and Lorthamar as a leader was not involved.
Alliance from the harbor.
Notice how there's basically nothing but Horde here now, because this is just Garrosh's philosophy being put right here on display. He bombed this place into oblivion so he could conquer it. Let me say that again. I want you to think of the reality of this in real life. I want you to assume for some weird moment that a country called the United States drops an atom bomb, or more than one, on Japan. I want you to then imagine that pretty much immediately after that atom bomb was dropped there, the United States walked in with ground troops and said, oh, this is ours now, and claimed the debris. I don't know what else to call it. If you've never seen what Hiroshima looked like afterward, you just look it up sometime. Holy crap. That's pretty much exactly what Garrosh did here. Because that's how he thinks. And I've been pointing this out this entire time, and I've been showcasing how that's just his mindset. I'm gonna go ahead and obliterate something so I can conquer it. Because... yeah. Wow, Reach. Yeah, exactly, War Wager. Yeah. That just... yeah, enjoy your Kingdom of Ashes. By the way, hey, Junior, Blorb, am I saying that right? I didn't say Japan, Azure. I said Hiroshima. I said, I want you to picture them walking in on a debris field and saying, this is ours. Yeah, actually, if we want to avoid real-life politics, and honestly I do, I could just point to Darth Malik as an excellent example of what I'm talking about.
I will destroy all the planets in the galaxy and then claim that they are mine because no one will be left to stop me.
Because that's how he thinks. This one. This one is a shaman werewolf. I don't either, War Wager. There's a reason that rule exists, after all. I do too. It's good music.
Victory or death!
Now, you know what's kind of sad is even though the story of the Alliance and Horde versions of this scenario are completely different, the gameplay mechanics of the two are the same. Virtually identical, actually. As I mentioned earlier, this was a really disappointing launch event. I mean, just a really disappointing launch event. Because this was it. You know, most launch events, even if they only have a few things, they have several different things, you know. Warlords had the thing, which I'll showcase actually live for you, at least some of it, and a dungeon. You know, Cataclysm had several quest chains, which expanded over time. Wrath had amazing amazingness. Legion is supposedly going to have amazingness as well. I don't want to spoil too much of that for you guys, but let's just say it looks awesome. And then this had nothing. This had a single scenario. Well, excuse me, that's a lie. 2 scenarios, which had slightly different stories, and that's it. Oh, trust me, Norlex. Warlords was 20 times better than this one. Was I the only one who actually liked Operation Nomragon? Was that just me? No? Okay, okay. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Theramore is not just this tiny little place in lore, as I've discussed before. You know, you always have to add that variance between, you know, how big it is in the game and how big it is in lore. This is a massive island city.
Shed blood with me.
And, yeah, it's well, you'll see in a moment. We're actually going to go into Theramore proper in a bit here. I forget which game it is I ran, but I actually had Jungle Elves once. Ah, the fact that we still haven't retaken Nomragon. No, I'd say this was still more disappointing. Even though this did kind of change things. You know, status quo-wise. I will say this, for the same reason I defend Call of Duty 6 Modern Warfare 2, I defend the destruction of Theramore from a creative standpoint. Yeah, that's correct, War Wager. Hey, Bowman. Sleep. Words. So, that would be X Pearl, or Z Pearl, excuse me. The, damn it, I really did lose my train of thought. We're talking about... because the fact that people are still arguing to this day about the Theramore situation, the fact that there are still people who are polarized because of the destruction of Theramore and because of everything that it accomplished, whether it was the right move to do or not, it's hard to deny that it had an impact. And one of the things some writers like to do, weirdly enough, is to have that impact, is to have people still be discussing their work, you know, years in the future. And, well, ignoring the fact that I'm discussing it, several of my own viewers just now, and people in general on forums and whatnot, are still talking about the Theramore incident to this day. I'd say that was pretty successful. Now, unfortunately, due to the nature of the game engine, we can't really show off the level of devastation the way it should look. But you can kind of see the center of what used to be a city right there. Emphasis on used to, obviously. We'll be seeing it a little more up close pretty soon. Yeah, Sylvanas is another good one like that. So yeah, there's what's left of the iris.
This aberration destroyed everything. Everyone. The Horde cannot be allowed to recover the focusing iris. Eliminate what remains of their forces, and I will secure the artifact.
So this is the beginning of her new hairdo. This is one of those, Merlin A kind of situations. Her hair was literally shocked white by the magic that she was hit by here. And her personality has never actually been the same since this point in time. Not just because of the obvious, mental trauma, but because the literal magic that was infused into her from this has warped her to the point where it could be argued she's literally not the same person anymore. And I don't mean in a vague sort of a way. Do note that this is not the point at which people call Jaina things that I'm not going to repeat here. That hasn't happened yet. She's still willing to be talked down from this. I'll talk about what happens right after this event, after we finish it. Again, gameplay-wise, note how we're fighting the same type of boss in the same areas, and yeah, gameplay-wise, this is pretty much just a repetition of the other one. Yeah, no, it literally changed her fundamentally. Internally, metaphysically, etc. Yes, Psychotic. This is before Calicos brings her back from the brink because true love. No, she's not a Dreadlord. Why does everyone think she's a Dreadlord? I'm so confused. Well, a lot of people did know her looks, and with some good reason. She seemed to be just pretty much jump over the edge of Psycho during Pandaria. As I said before, if you don't know the full story, it's very easy to assume that. It's part of the purpose of a Lorerun, after all, is it not? I'll deal with that in a minute. Nah, I'll deal with it right now. We have like 3 things in this new house that beep in loud, irritating beeps. So, by the way, Jaina, Minizan, says that this is not Chair-sama, or Chair-sama. This is just Chair. Anyways.
I must attune to the focusing iris before transport. Protect me.
No one can protect you. Kill the Proudmoore wench. And bring me that bomb!
Your people are despicable cowards, Orc. You're nothing more than rabid dogs, and you will be put down!
Brave words, mage. I'll spit in your face when you beg for mercy.
You spit on mercy? Then you will have none. You want carnage? Garrosh will get more blood than he ever bargained for.
I'll bring the war chief your head!
So, yeah, for those of you not aware, Jaina was pretty much the peace lover, peacemaker of Doom. Again, perhaps too much of an extent.
All of you have my deepest thanks. With the focusing iris removed, this lifeless bomb is merely a sickening testament to Garrosh's brutality.
Yeah, for those of you not aware, Jaina was pretty much the peace lover, peacemaker of Doom. Again, perhaps too much of an extent.
All of you have my deepest thanks. With the focusing iris removed, this lifeless bomb is merely a sickening testament to Garrosh's brutality. The winds of change blow fiercely. Azeroth is on the brink of war. My apologies, but you must excuse me. I have much to consider. Farewell.
So one of the things they did wrong with this is this was most people's only exposure to this story. They didn't read the book, and indeed, why would they? It's a book that's over there, that you shouldn't have to read a book to get the story. I agree with that mentality. So, some people didn't realize the full complexity of what just happened, which I tried to illustrate for you. There's also the fact that, well, I'll talk about it in a moment. But first, hello, Kulyoto. Thank you. Welcome to my stream. I mean, I guess you've been on my stream for a bit. But as I like to say to people, don't be a stranger. If you want to chat, you want to talk, say hi. Not that we know of, Junior Blorb Blorb. So, after the destruction of Theramore, Jaina fled and was still kind of crazy. And I mean literally crazy, not as in, ah, but I mean like her mind was altered by that magic infusion I already just mentioned. So she went to kill Orgrimmar. That's not a joke. She was going to... Remember, Jaina is one of the most powerful mages in the whole setting, at least in the top 10, I'd say. And she pretty much was just like, yep, I'm going to flood the entire city and kill everyone there. I want to remind you that there's a fairly large civilian populace in Orgrimmar, as there would be in most cities, as there was in Theramore. But to Jaina, this was completely acceptable. I mean, they were the enemy, and therefore brutality is acceptable. I'm not laying judgment, by the way. Thrall was there and was literally using all of his power to try and keep back the flood that she was going to use to utterly wipe out the city. And see you around, Taitu. And just to make this clear, Jaina, in the moment, with all of her rage and with the empowerment from the Mana Bomb, she was actually overpowering Thrall. And so Thrall was failing at not only talking her down, but at preventing her from wiping out his city. It actually took Kalikos, Mr. I came out of nowhere, to Wuv, in order to finally talk her out of it, and, you know, blah, 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 kiss, makeup, etc. I've already talked about that. And that's when she decided to not wipe out Orgrimmar. And she sort of stabilized a bit after that. She actually went to Lorerun, and went to the Kirin Tor, and they looked her over, and they discovered a few things, and noticed the fact that she had been altered by the Mana Bomb, all the stuff I already told you, and that she was now stabilizing to be a little bit more herself. So now all she was left was the normal mental and emotional trauma of watching her city get bombed off the face of the earth. That is when they decided to elect Jaina Proudmoore the leader of the Kirin Tor, which puts her in charge of Lorerun, which is effectively an entire nation of mages. I say effectively because in terms of mundane resources, military firepower, and that kind of thing, they're not really at the national level, but in terms of political sway and overall exertion force, thanks to the concentration of mages, they are a major player in the political scheme of the world. I just want to point out for a moment that at this point in time, Lorerun and the Kirin Tor were still neutral. So that catches us up a little bit on Tides of War. Sorry about forgetting about it till now. I'm going to go ahead and get going because I'm going to go ahead and start doing some recording. This is a little early for me to cut off, but since Janine and Pax are both on, I'm going to take advantage of that and try and get some of those raids recorded now since we lost the old information. So, I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow where we will get back to Pandaria proper and continue going through the Jade Forest. I'll see you around, guys. What? dog? Where's Janae?